5 for 5. You know me, chat. Come on.
This one is also easy.
I just got lucky.
I'm feeling very confident.
I'm pretty sure this is a Brutal Bastion in the snow area, really high on the map, because I can see it from the building in the back.
It could be anywhere in the snow, but I would say Brutal Bastion.
Brutal Bastion.
Brutal Bastion. Bastillion. You know that one? Because they have these unique statues.
The waterfall, I think it's yeah, I think it's only can be in Citadel.
Okay, the Citadel.
That is Citadel.
Know what it is? It's on the top. I think it's called Citadel, maybe.
I can just see it on the colors and the trees, and on the building as well. And I know that there's a waterfall right there.
It's bottom left, but I forget the name of the location.
Oh wait, I think I know it already.
I know what where this is on the map. I don't know the PY name.
Shattered Slabs.
Yeah, I think it's Shattered Slabs.
I don't know, bro. I'm just gonna go with
Map right now. Shattered Slabs.
faulty. Please, bro. Oh my god, bro.
I think this is Frenzy Farms.
These little things, I think I saw them in the farm.
Yeah, I think I've farmed those things before at Frenzy.
I think it's Frenzy Fields.
That one easy. Frenzy, Frenzy, Frenzy.
I'm thinking this is Frenzy Fields.
Bro, I go there, I buy my chili dogs. Then I eliminate the lobby.
I think it's faulty splits because of the colors.
Oh, that is faulty. That is faulty.
It's one of the only POIs that has like a lot of stores. So this is faulty splits, I think.
I would say Faulty Splits.
I tried to use my game sense. I overthinked a bit too much. I saw green. I was like, no.
I just got lucky.
Yeah, it was too easy. It was too easy.
Don't doubt yourself. That's the lesson we've learned today.
We are here. It's week 2 of the EU FNCS. Up-and-coming German duo JJ2 and Glubshe will be going against the rest of the lobby tonight in their second weekly FNCS finals. With over 1,000 points to qualify for today's games, this impressive duo is looking to cement their names as contenders in Major 1. Once again, we are ready to see Mappy and Diox in action. Keeping up the good work from Week 1 final after their first place in EU, these guys are back in action to secure more series points and a spot in the Grand Finals. Queasy and Vino are not done either, as they also punch in their ticket for tonight's finals. Will this normally dominant duo claim a spot at the top of the leaderboard tonight? The lobby is stacked, and you got front row tickets on the battle bus to follow all the action. Let's go. This is the EU FNCS. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the FNCS. Yesterday, we watched NA East bring the heat. Pistols were the talk of the town. The question is, will EU also do that, or are they looking to change the meta in their own unique way? All of that and way more on today's broadcast. But first, why don't I introduce your analysts? It's none other than Vivid and Mini Minor.
Not a good start. We'll gloss over that. We'll forget about it.
Yeah, that didn't happen. No one saw it.
No,
You didn't see anything. All right, welcome to the broadcast, my friends. Like I kind of said yesterday, it was Pistol Town. Are we looking for EU to kind of do more of the same, or are you thinking they're going to change it up?
If they've been watching NA, I think that they kind of realized how strong those was. If they didn't already know, but I mean, looking towards the EU talent that we have today, I'm looking at Malibuca and Thomas HD after week number 1. Kind of a slow start for them when it comes to the major. The season overall was going well for them in the Elite Cups, but I'm looking to see more when it comes to the FNCS.
It was, but on the flip side of that, Darks and Mappy, what a performance last week for them.
Yeah.
Can they keep it up today? I hope so. We'll have to wait and see.
That is a great question indeed, because we're going to be touching on them in just a moment. I don't know, are you guys feeling that hype level? Because I feel like EU, they got a lot to live up to, especially after yesterday's games.
Oh, I mean, 100%. We saw some really high elimination games. I want to see some repeat performances of that here on EU, and I'm just excited to see how they do that.
JJ2 and Glubshe, I want to see them bring the heat today. I mean, they've been performing so well recently. I'm excited to see if they can continue.
All right, well, sweet. Why don't we go back? The duo you just mentioned, Diox and Mappy. We got to highlight these guys. And first, series point leaderboard. How are these duos going up and down? How are they going to make the grand finals? Let's find out. So, as we set this all up for you, the series point leaderboard, remember, after 3 weeks, the top 40 will go straight to grand finals. Then comes Surge Week. That's when we're looking to fill out the last 10 of the lobby. So, some of these duos we won't be seeing compete today. Their points are frozen. But after today's games going into next week, remember, the duos we see compete today, they will absolutely shift this series point leaderboard. Now, any highlights immediately standing out to you guys?
For me, Blackstream Mixon, right? We've seen Blackstream Mixon performing pretty well this season. They've been doing very well. They're one of those duos that are up and coming. I'm excited to see if they can continue that. Of course, on top of the series point leaderboard at the moment. After today, it will switch up a little bit, of course, Vivid. But I'm excited to see how they can do for the rest of the season. Of course, they still have major or week number 3 in major number 1 here to clutch up some more.
Yeah, 100%. And guys, listen, we're in week number 2, right? Like
Yeah.
this is the second of third week that you can get those series points. You got to get in the top 40 if you want to make it to those grand finals. Of course, if you are a top 9, you do have that last chance in that Surge Week. But I mean, listen, if you're not doing too hot in the series point leaderboard, you're checking that out, you're like, oh, you know, I'm down here in like 60s or something like that. You really got to pick it up when it comes to week number 3. So any of the teams competing today, they got to do well.
They have.
That's right. Remember, this is our benchmark right here. 525 points. That is the threshold. That's the number we need to stay above if we want it to go straight into grand finals. And I mean, I think for me, kind of like the takeaway is we saw a lot of like 37th place, right? Grolls, Firehunter, they did amazing in week number 1. And yet they're finding themselves right on the edge of that bubble.
You know what? That just proves to tell the story of how tough FNCS is.
Yeah, really tough indeed. But as you mentioned, Zeke, that is the threshold. 40th place, 525 points. So for the teams that are outside of that today, the higher up they finish today, the more likely they'll be in that top 40.
That's right. And we'll have more updates on this in the future. But for now, let's focus in on today's games. You mentioned Diox and Mappy. Now, we come full circle. We got to talk about this duo and what went right.
Diox and Mappy, what a performance, a highlight standout performance last week. We just want to break down how they went about that. Of course, Diox and Mappy landing at this split drop on the south side of the map, and Mappy lands a little bit to the north, just off of the island, gets 40 shields straight off the bat using those slurp barrels and the slap barrels, but Diox lands on the island to the south of it.
Yeah, I mean, this split job works out so well for them. And let me tell you, I mean, they're getting 20+ chests, 3 Oathbound chests, a couple of slap barrels are thrown there. I mean, that's what some of these teams are fighting for at named POIs. That's what they are contesting other teams for, and they're just getting this for free.
Yeah, 3 Oathbound chests at their drop, at a split drop at that as well, is absolutely crazy. I mean, even at Faulty Splits, we're seeing teams fighting over 4 Oathbound chests, 3 or 4 teams going for 4 Oathbound chests. Darks and Mappy have 3 to themselves. It's actually crazy.
Yeah, it's working out so well for them. I'm happy that you brought up kind of Faulty Splits, because actually, Faulty Splits being just north of where this duo lands plays a big role in how they actually gather their Storm Surge.
Yeah, of course, when you're landing the split drop, Storm Surge is absolutely vital. Getting that done is often so important because you're often not contested, right? So we see Darks and Mappy more often than not rotating to the north side of that Faulty Splits area and getting some Storm Surge tags on the team that are landing on the south. So many teams at that as well. And we can see them doing this so often, Vivid. And this is so important as the way they play their off-spawn strategy because it allows them to get that Storm Surge done early.
Yeah, 100%. And the reason why this works so well is because we often see that north side of Faulty team kind of push towards, kind of create this pincer on all of the teams that are found on that south side of Faulty. Now, of course, Mappy and Diox landing even further south of that, kind of just make those sneaky rotates up and make sure that they get some of those early Storm Surge tags done.
That's right, all happening on the dead side, right? I mean, these guys are just crazy resourceful in everything they're doing.
Yeah, dead side is the key word for this duo. Of course, they are doing that very, very well. It's very important that they get this Storm Surge tags early on at Faulty Splits because then it allows them the freedom to take the position that they want to take. And for this duo, it is the dead side of zone. Of course, we can see them rotating on this dead side. Of course, it has its advantages, Vivid. There's not many teams around. There's not many players to look at. But of course, when they get the Storm Surge done early, it gives them that freedom.
Yeah, 100%. The reason why dead side is so important, like Minnie just mentioned, well, there's no teams really over there, right? So all of the rotates that you're making, they're uncontested. You don't have anybody that's really based up because, you know, when you think about dead side, it's any teams that have done all of that Storm Surge because they're not looking for players necessarily because they've already done so much damage. So all of these rotates that Mappy and Diox pretty much made in week 1 were just done for free because of that early Storm Surge strategy that we mentioned.
And of course, they do get those 3 Oathbound chests. So more often than not, they do have hammers as well, which allows them to speed up those dead side rotations, just continuing to make their way through the game. Of course, for Diox and Mappy, it's working out really, really well. They're being very consistent, but with 33 eliminations last week, they were actually our elimination leaders last week. So although they have a very, very almost passive strategy off spawn, they're very, very aggressive when it matters most.
Yeah, 100%. You know, the strategies that they have, they're all really coming together, right? But even in moments where, you know, things aren't going their way or it's like random stuff going on throughout the game, they are just so resourceful. I want to highlight this right here. Diox, my favorite highlight of week 1, actually. He's in a solo clutch situation right here, and he hears the fishing rod go. He's like, oh, you know what? They're going to have to pop some jellyfish. Let me get close to them throughout the wall and heals off of that team's jellyfish. Absolutely phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, I love that because they're almost using an augment that they don't have. Of course, they don't have Jelly Angler, but the team next to them do. It's like, you know, we're going to benefit from that too. And actually just leeching off of those heals. Another little bit of tech that they used last week was, of course, using those kinetic rocks to make those dead side rotations. Of course, with their drop spot, they're kind of rotating towards that shattered slabs area. And as we know, so many of those kinetic rocks are actually situated at shattered slabs. We saw them use a huge rotation with those kinetic rocks, breaking it, flying away. It was absolutely majestic.
Love this duo, how everything starts off, whether it be the early game, the mid game, anything. They're playing so well, Zeke.
Yeah, I mean, so they have a little bit on hot streak, right? So are we expecting more of that today?
I hope so. I mean, they put on a great performance. I talked about their 33 eliminations being the highest last week. And even in game number 3, they had the highest singular game eliminations with 13. So what they're able to do is just be so adaptable in their playstyle, getting that Storm Surge done early on, and then just having the freedom to rotate in whatever manner they want, and of course, position themselves in wherever they fancy.
Yeah, and I think the big note for me coming into week number 2 is, you know, the biggest thing for them week number 1 was that they were uncontested their split shot. Well, guess what? Today, same situation, uncontested. So look to see how well they do.
Why is that allowed? Why are they being uncontested? I don't know. You know what? As we come this way, we have to highlight another duo that's also on a hot streak. None other than Cammy and Seti. If you didn't know, they won FNCS Invitational. That kind of just happened. Not a big deal. They're back to just kind of put on quite a show for us once again. So talk to us about this duo.
Cammy and Seti, they are one of our best teams on the region, of course. If you don't know Cammy and Seti by now, where have you been living? Under a rock, I would imagine, because they are doing so well. I mean, this season hasn't necessarily been the best season for them. Even last week, they had a 7th, which, of course, is pretty solid, but it's Cammy and Seti we're talking about. They have high standards, and they fixed a few problems, which we'll highlight in just a second, but this duo, they're so good.
Yeah, and me and Minnie were kind of talking about this duo coming into week number 2, and we noticed, you know, in week 1, they're kind of back to their old ways, right? Playing that low ground strategy, which worked out, you know, pretty well for them as as well, because they were kind of going for that higher ground just prior to this season. So happy to see them back to their roots.
That's right. Let's highlight game number 4. Their Storm Surge strategy and in fact their adaptability is on another level.
Yeah, of course. This is game number 4 from last week. And what we noticed was the zone was right on top of them. So in these situations, it can be very, very difficult for them to get those Storm Surge tags for any team, not just Cammy and Seti. But of course, it was at this Frenzy Field area. And they actually wanted to try and prioritize positioning here at Vivid. But they had a little bit of a difficult situation for them.
Yeah, I mean, they built that base up, but then they immediately left it. And kind of what that allows for any of the surrounding teams to kind of rotate into Frenzy Fields. It's important to note that it's pretty much the center of zones. You'd be like, well, listen, they landed there. Surely they're going to be in a good spot. Well, then the fact that they left that base allowed just so many teams to rotate in. But the adjustment that Zeke mentioned is what actually paid off really, really well for them in this game.
Yeah, the adjustment was they rotated down to that south side. Of course, they identified, right, we're not going to be able to have our optimal position here on top of that base. So what they thought, you know what, let's get our surge in plan B. Let's go down to the south side, rotate, and catch those people that are rotating to get as much tags as possible. I want to highlight Lucy and Steno doing a great job here, identifying that Cammy was alone there. They could take over that position and claim that prime location for this drop spot.
And that's the thing about FNCS, right? Just one simple mistake, and all of the teams surrounding them just kind of took advantage of it. But of course, Cammy and Seti being the powerful duo that they are, they made that adjustment now. Of course, Frenzy Fields did end up being where zone was closing in on. So the fact that they rotated towards that dead side, of course, later on, they're going to have to make the rotation back, which is, you can see right now, they're rotating into so many teams, which is why that little bit of a mistake caused so much havoc when it comes to that game. But they just did so well making that adaptation.
Yeah, for sure. So if that was game 4, what was that adaptation in game 6?
Well, you're seeing it right here, right? Seti is making that very similar base that we saw in game number 4. But this game, he is actually staying up in this base.
Yeah, they've learned from their mistakes. Seti wasn't going to drop down this time. He's holding down the fort, and it's proving to work out so well. It did prove to work out so well because Cammy was able to use this time to break the trees, getting the line of sight. I know Jenny last week did a great mid-game package on it because they just had so much freedom and so much visibility throughout the rest of the lobby. And again, this is a similar situation. The zone was right on top of them. So they had this almost castle up in the sky, the penthouse view of the rest of the lobby, and they could just rain down fire, get all that Storm Surge, which of course they did a little bit. They were a little bit lower in game number 4.
Yeah, 100%. And if you take a look at the map right there, there were pretty much no teams around them this time, which is very different similar situation than it was in game number 4. And I like the fact that you mentioned the Storm Surge, right? Going into third zone in game number 4, they only had about 300 damage above, but that adjustment that they made in game number 6 allowed them to have the likes of 700 damage above.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a deja vu from the Invitational as well. It was actually Cammy while Seti was sat up in there. He was just collecting all the heals possible, all those materials, and then he was able to drop those heals inside of the base, at the top of the base, and they just had unlimited heals to take as many tags as they wanted. Absolutely perfect stuff from them. And as you can see, they are two very, very solid solo players. When they get together as a duo, it's a force to be reckoned with.
To note that, right, we saw big adjustments throughout game 4, from game 4 to game 6, but now they've had a whole week 1 to week 2 to make adjustments, so I'm excited to see how they perform today.
Okay, then I have a question for you. Okay, this duo seems amazing.
Right.
They are, right? Okay, right. So if they look so amazing, there's always the but. So where is the lack? Where's the weakness? What's the one thing, in your opinion, they might need to improve upon?
Eliminations, right? Throughout week 1, they only got a total of 13 eliminations.
But this is Cammy and Seti. We know how they can perform when they don't have eliminations. They do not need them, and I'm sure they'll be doing more of the same today. All
right, we'll have that eagle's eye on your invitational champions, but of course, we have 2 casters that'll be breaking down all the action. Of course, it's Jacob PR and Levin2K.
You didn't think that was going to happen, did you?
You know, honestly, you got so much air there. I was very impressed. That was awesome. Friends, welcome. EU, week number 2. Yesterday, NA East really set the tone coming into week number 2. You guys feel like EU has some things to prove, or you're thinking they're like, nah, we got this?
Well, look, the regions are very separate in many different ways. I do think if you ask some of the EU players, there would have been a lot to learn from some of the NA players, right? We saw the difference in the games from week 1 to week 2. There's definitely a change there. I'm expecting another big change here in EU as well.
Yeah, I know, me coming from another side of that coin, I was a little disappointed in some of the performance from EU last week. I was expecting some domination, some high-flying action like NA East had, but it's a second chance. I think they can make up for it.
Hey, we'll find out, because guess what? We're ready to go. That's right. We don't want to wait any longer. We want games here in EU. Buckle up. There is 6 ahead of us. So, find your seats on the bus. It's game time.
I said I was a little disappointed at the performance, but at the same time, it's just because I didn't see a lot of those superstars at the top of the leaderboard. But at the same time, it's those underdogs, that big story, the chance to really shine when nobody else will.
Yeah, look, it feels like right now we are having a changing of the guard in Fortnite. A lot of newer names popping up around the map. There's a couple I've noticed here today that will be competing. I'm very excited about, but we will get to them, I'm sure. We will see them throughout the day. On my part, though, yeah, I would definitely love to see some of our bigger names get more consistent. But the time is now. The time is now to jump into the lobby. The battle bus is ready. The players are excited to get a start. Who will be victorious here in game 1?
Yeah, and I like the way we're all kind of talking about it, whether it's before the show, during the show, after the show, this new age of Fortnite that we're seeing. Being consistent is just not enough. You need to kind of match that top placing with aggression. We saw it a little bit yesterday with NAE's players taking over their own destiny, and I expect the same thing here as Neb, Pink, they qualified. This is their first time here in the finals. Another team, I expected them last week, but with this time around, they have a chance to really have a great game. They're uncontested, they're looting up, and they're setting themselves off right.
A fight I'm very excited to watch throughout the day, though. When it comes to Mighty Pelican and Hardfine, they're going to be up against Mesa. And it's not going to be an easy fight, I'll tell you that much. Mesa already having some problems. Voltex is going to have to come to his rescue. An interesting thing about this fight, Jacob, that a lot of people don't know, Mesa's actually my former duo.
Ooh!
Yeah, man.
So if he does good, you taught him everything. That's basically what you're kind of saying right now.
Everything you know is...
Only time will tell if it really is. But right now, unlike yesterday in the same landmark, they're kind of trying to split as much of it as they can before they finally go in for the chase. As Mighty Pelican trying to sneak in, get the angle. Piece control in this situation is going to be crucial for anybody's survival. As you see them trying to build up, take the high ground. I like this. They're taking certain pieces around this spot from different elevations. That way, they can use the different angles to their advantage.
Yeah, you see how difficult it's going to be if you're Voltex, right? Not many opportunities for him to actually farm and get any mats. Just going to have to rely on this pistol. We know it can do a lot, and a lot it will do. Hardfine, all them shields gone.
Yeah, he does have some extra minis towards the bottom. Mighty Pelican stepping in just a little too far. He goes down. Really have to rethink that one. Is Hardfine really has a decision to make. Do I hold this spot, try to go ahead and put the team on my back, or do I try to disengage, refine the reboot card later on?
Yeah, and even without the mats, Voltex and Mesa hitting big shots there, right? And so in some of these early off-spawn battles, even if you ain't got the resources, if you do hit your shots, if you do have good aim, you will survive. And of course, speaking of good aim, it doesn't get much better than Thomas HD. Only hitting the one shot there.
Those are crucial adjustments as you see them closing in on the distance. Last week, they were suffering down on Surge a lot. Forced with the backs up against the wall to make some aggressive plays that may not have been the best, but this time around, they're trying to solidify some early game Surge, make a team caught out in the open by themselves, and try to take advantage while they can, but you see the third-party shots beginning to come in.
Yeah, and look, the way they set up this fight, it wasn't any sort of standard way, right? They looked to pinch, right? Both coming from different sides. These guys had no idea which way to look in terms of where they were getting shot from. Of course, now they're grouping up as the pace of the fight will slow down a bit. Ain't gonna get too fast, too hot at all.
You can already see them kind of disengage right there. High reaction third is gonna live to tell. You see Vexy and the Bull in another close range fight right off the POI. Not a lot of builds to work with, but he's landing the shots that matter. Doesn't matter how many resources you have. If you're just taking them down in one shot each, it's all you need.
Yeah, that heavy shotgun ain't too bad when you pick up off spawn. Really, really nicely done, right? Both shots hit with precision. And now Vexy and the Buell have a chance to play this game out, of course. Still have to be on the alert. There's always going to be people in this area.
Andalex and Snazzy, uncontested this time around. Snazy, excuse me there. And this is going to be a great opportunity for them because last week they were going against Janice and Reason, off spawn. They were able to get their surge very, very early on. So some of these teams, contested unlike last week, uncontested unlike last week, those are some real changes that they're going to have to make. And you can already see not spending too much time looting up in their exact landmark. They're immediately trying to go elsewhere and find the surge tag. So that way they can focus on rotation the later this game goes.
Yeah, of course, you have to be very efficient in your loot path and how quickly you can get out of your POI and start finding players to take shots at and start dealing damage. If you aren't contested, that is. Of course, you never want to be falling behind on Surge, and that's exactly the reason why we're seeing Tayson here where he is. Of course, Tayson and Mustache, they land north side of Slappy, but you can already see so early into the game, Tayson is venturing a bit north, realizes that there's opportunities for players in this area that he can take shots on from afar. Even if he doesn't connect and get an elimination out, right, Jacob? The damage he deals will go a long way for this team.
Yeah, this is some of the most prolific, high-caliber players that we've seen. They know how to play throughout the different scenarios. Storm Surge, getting the damage early on is like a cushion. You're giving yourself more room to work with, more flexibility to kind of have different play styles throughout the game. You don't have to focus on just trying to beam a player or jump into a box. And a team is known for their passive gameplay. We saw them ramp it up last week, 12 eliminations with the Victory Royale, Seti and Cammy. And that's what we kind of talk about. It's that placement, that consistency isn't just enough throughout the day. The next 6 games, I'm going to be looking at them to see how they handle a lot of this pressure. Just like Marius, Frednix over here, they have the high ground. They're building themselves a tower in the sky. And you can see that one player is looting up, getting resources, while the other one has their 2 different roles, just getting the surge that they need as a team.
Yeah, they have to be careful though, because Chari and Giras are around and might look to initiate some sort of a battle. For Kylie and Vico though, we didn't necessarily see at the start of this game, but I believe they are contested on the south side of Slappy. It looks like they were able to clean things up rather fast. And when you look at Vico's loadout, his materials, the elimination count, things are certainly looking good for that team. But of course, Tayson and Mustache are lurking in that Slappy area, so we'll see what that leads to. Vino Bron, one of my favorite players in this lobby. Very excited to see if he can do exactly what we expect them to do, right? Which is come out and impress, win some games, top the leaderboards. That's what you'd expect from Queasy and Vino.
And their consistency over the EU region has been absolutely insane. Not looking to just take part, but dominate altogether, cement their name in the books, build their legacy. Hellsfire and Refsguard kind of qualifying on the lower end of players throughout the last 2 days, but one thing we learned, all you need is a chance, an opportunity to play in a set lobby like this, just because I wouldn't say drastically different styles of gameplay, but you see people are making more calculated, more passive style of moves rather than just trying to go all in, trying to get these high eliminations game. And for players that have as much experience as them, that's exactly the type of style that they want to continue to play into.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of split drops when you look at today's map and how the distribution is between players all around the board. There's not necessarily a crazy amount of off-spawn battles, but you will still see people, even with the split drops, stepping on each other's toes, running into each other in certain choke points of the map. This might be an example of just that. Kiduo and Yusri in a fight now. It's actually Hyrax they're up against. Give us some control, Kiduo. He will be very cautious about the peaks and the edits that he takes. Doesn't want to get caught out, even with the reserve and shields he has.
Oh, this is their chance, though. Hyrax is on the other side. If they spot this opportunity to take the 2v1 against Dirt, which looks like what they're doing, trying to get into the box. There's only one player to try to defend, but a nice opportunity there as the pieces above. Hyrax with shot, trying to take the different angle. Great job thinking outside of the box, trying to keep himself alive. Knock for knock, blow for blow. 1v1 this one's coming down to, but does he not see him in the cone right behind him? A nice opportunity to sneak attack, but the shots will continue. This one will continue on as Kaidu is now under pressure, forced to back up. Hyrax hot on his heels. Once you do that amount of damage, you don't want to let the opportunity escape you.
I love the way Hyrax is playing this. He's done a brilliant job to isolate the 2 1v1s, and he gets in and cleans things up. You would never really expect a player to win in that situation, but the way Hyrax just took different angles, hit the right shots, big shots at that, and now there is still hope for them in this game. Look at this. Drops down, catches them, they didn't even expect it, and he moves back down to a different angle, and they just get caught wide asleep.
Bro, that was
brilliantly done.
He read him like a book. Checked him out the library, returned him back to the lobby at a moment's notice. That is just a huge opportunity, because I was talking about it was he who was separated from his teammate, who got 2v1. If they would have went back to the lobby, you definitely would think he'd get an earful, as Zangi and Zara now under pressure, 2 different angles. Paco Marine, one on the same layer, the other one just a few inches higher, trying to put the pressure from the 2 different angles, and the shots are going to go through. 66 shield disappears right off. They're fighting in the storm, and you see another team slowly but surely closing in on the gap. The longer this one takes, you know how that story goes.
Yeah, and you see Moran very cautious of where Zangi's position was. Zangi was trying to just sneak around, see if he could catch him out. But Marion always going to be very, very alert in those kind of situations. And he's now on the hunt. If he can hit another shot here, you think that is it. Yep, the knock comes through. Zangi will fall. Marion always going to be ruthless in these kind of storm fights. Doesn't want to let his opponents breathe. And for Zara, he's just going to have to hope that they leave him alone. Don't even go on the hunt. Don't look to try and clean him up.
Probably think he's nearby. And how much time he has is definitely up to how much heals he has on him, but you can kind of see they know that where he can go right now, the options are very, very limited. You see them trying to look, seeing did he swim away. They don't spot him out, and that's exactly where you would typically just completely look straight down low. The most obvious spot, Marion not checking it just yet. And it does look like for now, Zara is gonna live.
Oh, buddy, oh, pal, I'm sure he was sweating there as he heard Marion just above him. No, he will be heard now. The Sankyu comes through, and Marion making quick work of Zara there. So, his third of the game, not too shabby. They now have to get towards the zone, but things are certainly looking on the up for that duo.
Yeah, unfortunately enough, he didn't have any heals. He had to make a move. It was that, or just go down to the zone. Either way, as Revsguard, Expire, they're doing a good job so far, just trying to bypass everybody around, get to the zone as quick as possible. That's going to be the key for a lot of these teams, and some of the action, because this is how action-packed the mid to late game does tend to get. Marius with great shots being landed. They take out another full duo. That's important Storm Surge for them and their journey to the center.
Yeah, some nice mechanics on display there. Of course, as much as there's many different aspects to competitive play, one of the most satisfying things to watch in all of Fortnite is just to see someone completely piece up their opponent and hit a big shotgun shot. Oh, we see that here from Hellfire and Revsguard. Hellfire certainly has that kind of firepower, but with Revsguard down, he needs to try to create some space. His teammate's going to get eliminated completely, taken out the game. So now a lot of pressure here on Revsguard, or I mean on Hellfire. Revsguard's just going to have to watch from behind.
Yeah, that was a huge find as well as Astral does get the Shockwave Hammer. Along with that elimination, you see Hellfire going down as well to Deceptos. So his escape comes to an end to a third party as everybody, that's exactly what happens. When you hear these fights going off in the distance, you begin to look, you get curious like a cat, and you try to close in on the distance to try to steal away Surge, to steal away the points, just like you see there as Flixie cheating, trying to steal away an opportunity, closing in, trying to take away the pieces. Podesai and X-Squeeze on the other end of this one. He's knocking on the door. Great defense for them to try to escape, taking the high ground, peeking through with landing a nice shot on the Cheatin', slowing him down just a little bit, giving them just a little bit more time to work with here as Flixie has that lower angle, trying to break through the box, building upward. Podesai, here's that one coming. You see him backing up, playing defensive, and this is where he could probably peek just yet again. 71 shields. Even though it's them who are getting aggressed on, they're doing such a fantastic job on the defensive end, just pushing them back.
Yeah, brilliant defensive fighting from Podesai and Suisse. Two of the best players when it comes to that aspect of the game. Of course, we know they have the mechanics on point, the aim on point. Suisse especially one of those players who always expect to pack a punch. Flixie cheating though in the midst of a fight. In a fight that they may just win out. Big damage being dealt, but they have to be careful because their shields are running low and there are still players in this vicinity that could cause an issue for them.
And if they weren't here before, they're going to be there now because the zone continues to pull north. Directly in the path, the Brutal Bastion. You add on the fact that they have the static launch pads as well. So for those few teams that might not have a Shockwave Hammer, you're going to be looking for this spot to try to rotate through.
Yeah, you got to start getting creative. Start figuring out how exactly you get to zone, especially with all these different teams around you. Don't want to leave yourself too exposed. Don't want to waste too many materials or maybe take too much damage and have to use the little shields you have. It's always going to be something people are taking into consideration, that management of your resources. For Frednex and Marius, though, they are on the complete opposite side of the zone. What many people would call the dead side. There aren't many players in this area, so they do have a bit more time. Don't have to be in too much of a rush. Of course, though, the zone is going to start coming, and so when that does happen, we will see them start to move. The good thing is, though, is with what they have in terms of loot, as long as they don't have to worry about Storm Surge, if they've dealt a decent amount of damage this game, they'll be in a pretty position moving forward in this one.
Almost looked like his loadout. He's playing the solid gold playlist right there for a second as Mr. Savage and iDrop. Another team that had a few struggles last week being contested. This time around, you can see them switching it up, trying to go for an early rotate, get out of the POI, try to go for the Storm Surge elsewhere on the map, 107 above. It's enough to let them feel comfortable, but at the same time, they're experts in their game. They know it's not enough compared to everybody else in the lobby once it comes to the later zones.
Oh boy, how many times have you seen this one, Jacob? Queasy based up high in the sky with vision of all the lobby around him and the potential to just wreak havoc on players just down there below. It's like a bird's eye view for him up here. He sees all. And he needs to start hitting some shots to pair with it though. Nicely done. You see Vino just a bit low up. Changing up the angles a bit, but they are covering a lot of ground from that spot.
This is where you got to be preparing for the future right now. And that's why like Queasy is so high in the sky, because he's getting the information not only of the players, but where the possible rotates are next. This could be moving zones up and down mountains.
Yeah, and you see Pink and Neb here. They're not looking too great when it comes to their HP, what they have to work with in terms of materials. This was not the favorable zone for them. The zone is all the way here in the north of the map. We know they started the game down in the south. They've had to do so much to get to this point. And so desperation going to start to kick in. They need to find something, and fast. Both of them, though, great playmakers in their own rights. And so I expect to see them start to connect with something. There are plenty of opportunities. There's so many low plays. Pink with a little crack there. That will help in terms of surge, but he wants more than just that. Maybe he wants an elimination, something that maybe he can grab onto. It will be very difficult, though. So many players with their eyes on this spot. And if you're Ludwig down there, you're just going to hope that they start running out of ammo and stop shooting you, because the pressure is relentless right now. Barely just holding on.
And what we're watching right now is even if they survive, their game from here on out has been changed for good, using a lot of resources just to stay alive. They're going to have to look for some sort of siphon, some sort of refresh as Cammy, Seti, 364 above the damage threshold before it deactivates. They know they got themselves off to a great start. Consistency is key for them. I just want to see them mix in those eliminations. That'll naturally present itself as this game does continue. Merstash and Tayson. You saw them early on getting their own Storm Surge, 2 eliminations for Merstash so far. This is going to be a big opportunity for all these teams to really start off with their confidence at high.
Yeah, Merstash. It was an Excalibur rifle. Just making him a bit wary of how he positioned himself, and so looking to regroup now with Tayson. And of course, this duo always going to be a scary sight in these games. If you're on one of those mid to low layers in endgame, you always have to worry about whether or not that team is going to be knocking on your door. And do you have the answers for them? Once they do, oftentimes it's a no. Such a powerful duo.
That's the interesting thing about week to week. Got these powerful duos trying their best to perform. See Thomas and Malibu close by, X-Squeeze and Podesai using every single one of their charges when it comes to the Shockwave Hammer, trying to get themselves as far to the other side of zone as possible. That almost leads me to believe that they possibly using that forecast augment.
Yeah, this is a telltale sign of a team that has forecast. You saw they have the hammers, and so they're living the good life. They can go anywhere they want in this lobby. You saw how proactive, how fast they look to move, and just with how specific the positioning is, you would love to think that the zone, that 5th zone, the 50-50 half in, half out, is probably going to pull towards that northeast, or northwest, sorry, I should say. Never been good with compasses, me. Frednex and Marius, also in a very similar area, and so, again, a team who we already highlighted looking very good. Looking at they're playing that solid gold. I'm very much going to be happy with what they're working with and where they're positioned.
Another team that might be happy, Andalix and Snazy. Last time we saw them, it was at the very beginning, looting up, trying to set themselves up for a good game, and 4 eliminations, 420 above the damage threshold. They set themselves up quite rightly. As you see them putting the shots on the eye drop into the distance. And I like the big bush bomb in the box, makes it harder for people to pick through when they're trying to go ahead and sneak through those shots, but now they set their eyes on a couple of teams and players that are down below, and that's the beauty. They can set their eyes on everybody and just target exactly who they want. Paco Marine, only 2 above. Sooner or later, they're going to have to get active because you don't want to fall below that threshold in a lobby this stacked.
You certainly don't, and we saw this team fighting a bunch this game, right? They have 4 eliminations. Typically, you'd associate a team at this stage in the game with that many eliminations. You'd think there's no way you could possibly be in surge troubles. Nevertheless, they're here, and they have to start hitting shots. The players are there to connect with. Merstash and Tayson giving them that opportunity, but they aren't quite able to connect with anything. That assault rifle isn't really connecting. The good thing about where they're positioned, though, Jacob, is that they do have a clear path to the zone. They can rotate down this mountain. Nobody in the lobby really has much vision of them. So they can get to the 50-50 zone pretty well. and maybe even position themselves to deal with their surge issues once they make it in.
Got to be careful, though. You have to be careful and cognizant of the fact that if this one pulls up, you put yourself so far down the mountain, you have to have some sort of trick up your sleeve, some sort of plan B for when push comes to shove. So everybody's just trying to get themselves that sneaky good layer as high off the ground as possible. So that way they don't have to deal with the madness if it does go and pull down low. It's going to be a roller coaster of a zone if I've ever seen one myself. As he's trying to gather the information, spotting those duos that nearby, over peaks. Analyx takes a big shot.
Yeah, this next zone is going to be so critical to how this game plays out. Analyx, you saw him hunting, searching. He was very much looking to try to find something because they're running low on materials. But Stash and Tayson will be doing a very similar thing, but from a very different position, up above in the skies. They control height for the meantime. Will they be able to hold on to it, though? Will they play this right? Of course, we know there's so many different height titans in this lobby. Malibuka and Thomas, maybe not the height titans in this game, but certainly titans of the lobby, titans of EU, and titans of the world. Not the best of weeks in week one, but here is a chance for redemption. Here is a chance for change and solidification of a spot in the FNCS final.
And with that, Thomas and Malibuka's loot compared to Frednex here, they might have to go for some sort of refresh throughout the course of this one, especially with the zone moving down the mountain. It's going to make it hard for anybody to try to survive as the fight's going to break down for height. Cammy's trying to survive. You see he lost Seti along the way. He did get a knock onto one player. Is he going to be able to clean it up? That's going to be the thing as multiple players just trying to break in. Shockwave Hammer's going out. Cammy is now pausing in his decision here. Do I continue to play aggressive? Do I let this one slip through? The choices are definitely his, and this is going to implicate a lot of what happens here in the rest of the game.
Yeah, Cammy's going to have to reach deep into his clutch bag if they're going to make anything of this game. Thomas and Malibuka, they keep it moving. They're running, they're scurrying through, up and down. Don't have much bills to work with, and so they are going to go the cheap route. But lo and behold, look who's up here on height. Is there any real surprise here? Queasy and Vino up above the skies. They might need to connect because people are chopping it down. We know those hammers will do that. Well, Texas right below is going to cause them issues as well.
Yeah, but they're experts. They know how to hold on for it. You see Vino staying towards the back, Queasy towards the front, Mars staying alive down low towards the low ground. Finds a huge elimination onto Astral. Those are much needed resources for him in the rest of the game, or Stash falls as well. Tayson has to do everything now as a solo without a Shockwave Hammer. He has to try to get into the zone. No more splash to generate health. Huge shot onto a player right in front of him, but he cannot finish that one off. 20 HP. He gets dropped down a couple of layers as well. He goes ultimate low ground without no builds, without any resources, hoping for a miracle to present itself. Spots out Analyx, knows he cannot just get that green light just yet.
Tayson, the lone assassin here in this one. The minis will allow him to get some extra HP, but he needs more than just that. He needs a lifeline in this game, and that will come at the hands of him. And a shotgun shot, no, it does not connect. It's going to be his old teammate, Thomas HD, that picks him up. And he's no stranger to hitting big shotgun shots. He still does have Malibuka in this game. This duo is still alive and kicking. The hammer will allow them to keep it moving.
Yeah, that was the lucky thing there for Malibuka and Thomas. Not only did they turn and burn, keeping him alive. That Shockwave Hammer getting the front side of zone is Queasy, Vino. They have the high ground. They've held on to it zone after zone up until this point. I dare anybody to challenge them as they continue to put the pressure on everybody below. A huge refresh and a find on the Analyx as Thomas keeping himself alive.
Thomas, we know how much he likes to hustle. And there's plenty of hustle and bustle left in this game. Malibuka's finally fallen. He needs something. He needs to get into the zone. Time is ticking. He's falling. Just 7 HP, and Thomas will fall.
And Malibuka went down. He was the one that had that Shockwave Hammer. Down goes their run from the start of the game to the end. Kylie trying to make the run happen. 4 eliminations as a team. 3 on his own. 10 builds, but he's trying to be very resourceful here in this situation. Only use what he has to. Continues the Shockwave up. This is his chance to try to surprise any team that he's able to break through.
Kylie's so desperate in this situation. He needs something to work for him. He needs a lifeline. He needs some hope, and hope is far from him when Vino is up above you and in your face. This is a duo that is scary. No materials right now, but you wouldn't even think it from how confident they are. They need to just keep hitting shots, and the shots will continue to rise. Snazy down below. He's looking for something with Analyx out of this game. And something may just be right around the corner. You see him taking shots onto walls, but that is a full duo, so he might have to be a bit more patient, a bit more calm, try and hide his way to some placement points here. as Ping is doing right here on our screen.
Anything's better than nothing right now as he's just trying to escape. He's just trying to go unnoticed. Zone's pulling back. Vino's dropping down low. 2v1, Queasy and Vino versus Snazy. And they end that one rather quickly just as Vexy takes out Podesai. The lobby getting thinner and thinner with the same team from 5th zone on, holding that high ground, continuing the pressure from every lone player that's down below. One duo, one solo, and the world is theirs.
There's nothing more painful than getting pinched in an endgame by Queasy and Vino as they start to drop down and wreak havoc. Now it's the final 2v2. Vexy and the Buell, they've been so impressive so far this game, but are they a match for one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team in the world? Can they handle it? Will they rise to the occasion? It's getting very hot here, but Vexy still has a chance, and with the hammer, they'll look to make a play instantly, being humbled and sent back down. Queasy and Vino, they don't play no games, but can they close it out? That is the question here.
Question that will be answered shortly as they continue to shockwave up. I like how they have no resources down low, but still trying to be proactive to take over this game. But they have the Titans on top. Queasy and Vino, cool as a cucumber, patient as can be, not making any mistakes. Vexy gets knocked down though. The ball is stuck outside the zone, and game number 1 goes to Queasy and Vino.
A brilliant first game from a team that we know can impress on any given stage. I am very much looking forward to seeing them continue to do this, Jacob. This is no one-off. This is no surprise. They are the dominant force here today.
I was just thinking throughout that one. Oh, looking at my watch. It's about time. Queasy Vino, when the moving zones begin, that's when they really put their foot on that pedal, dropping down low only when needed, staying towards the high ground. Throughout this endgame, they've played literally 3 to 4 different styles of play to take home the first.
Yeah, they are just on an absolute tear this season. Every given opportunity, just showcasing why they are scary. We talk about this combination and why it's unfair almost, right? You have the best IGL in the game with the best fragger in the game. In theory, they should just be the best team in the game, and right now, they're the best team in this lobby. You've got to think as well that will continue throughout today.
Yeah, and I was asking around, what storylines are you excited for? EU, tell me what you got. The community said it loud and clear. Queasy and Vino's domination of EU. We know they're on top after that one, but Zeke, Miniminer, Vivid, what else do you have on that leaderboard?
All of the things, but first, of course, Queasy and Vino, they decided, oh, week 2, FNCS time, you said? Yeah, I would start with a victory round. Just a casual victory round, not a big deal. They just held it for so long. I mean, you just kept looking up. Anytime we would cut to a wide shot, I'd be like, oh, yep, they're still up there. No one's doing anything about it.
No, the turning point was, right, like me and Miniminer, we blinked, right? We looked at each other, we looked back at the screen, and all of a sudden, Queasy and Vino were on high ground, like, oh, how did that happen?
Yeah, they were on ultimate low ground at one point in this zone, then we switched back to them, and they're on high ground somehow, and that is exactly what this team do. They are like magicians, just able to magic themselves all the way up onto high ground, and that is exactly what they do best. And what I really like about the way they played this endgame is this is classic Vino and Queasy. They're able to pinch players down below, right? They're dropping down, each of them going on a singular wall, and they're able to pressure from 2 different angles. Of course, when you have the best fragger in the game, Vino, we know what he can do. And of course, Queasy with that big brain, just knowing exactly when to drop in, pick up the refreshes, kept them afloat, kept them alive, and kept them in the game to win the game.
Yeah, 100%. And the close that out right there, very, very clean as well, right? Vexy, the hammers were coming in. It was pretty much the last-ditch effort that they really had to contest that higher ground. But Queasy and Vino, they just kept going up, using those old builds, making sure they separated themselves, make sure their shockwave hammers could not actually reach them, and that's why they secured that victory royale.
I mean, that's going to leave them in that first place spot here on the leaderboards, but
it's close.
It's very close because Ping, we saw him there. It's all those eliminations, right? We saw him as a solo player there, make it up into that top 5, and I mean, at that point, the damage is done, right? I've made it enough. I've got eliminations. I've hit that high placement. I'm going to be up in the standings.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, shout out to Ping, right? Because we kind of saw him kind of on the low ground right there, ratting around, and the jokes get made, right? Oh, you know what I mean? He's not going to get much out of us, but I think he was actually in like 6th place, and he actually ended up getting into 3rd right now, which is why we can see them in 2nd place and even really close, 1 point behind Queasy and Vino.
Yeah, I mean, that's just playing the format, right? We know how valuable eliminations are in this particular format, and they've just proved how well that they can pick up those eliminations. Hopefully, they'll be able to continue. Of course, that was a very, very difficult zone. For them, of course, another team, Malibuka, Thomas HD. We're really excited about this duo coming into today. Last week, not the greatest performance, but a solid start from this duo.
Yeah, they're up here. I mean, it's just on the back foot of, right, making sure they had that early storm surge strategy out with. We saw them very, very early on getting a bunch of tags, and then the cohesion that they kept finding each other in this endgame and making sure that any play that they made was one that was well thought out and done together.
Yeah, and you know what that is? It's two IGLs coming together. Of course, we know how well that Thomas HD can lead. We know how well that Malibuka can lead. And sometimes that can butt heads almost. You can sort of have a conflict of opinion. You can have a conflict of plays. But in this instance, we can see them just doing it so often. And we didn't really get to see it last week, them in this situation in the end game. But the way they bounce off each other, the way that they can actually connect with each other at the moments where it matters most is unstoppable. And of course, Vivid, two incredible solo players. You have to have confidence in both of them.
Yeah, right. One goes down and you're like, listen, we're still a duo pretty much at this point because our solo play level is just that high.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, another duo, Snazy and Alex, right? I mean, just a lot of names that we're like used to seeing here in EU, really saying, all right, week 2, we have to come out and start strong.
Yeah, veterans on the region, of course. We know all about this duo. And of course, rotating quite a distance to get to this zone. Of course, such a difficult rotation for them, but Snazy clutching up in the final few moments, using the bush here almost as well to keep himself protected. Of course, picking up that refresh at the perfect moment on Thomas HD. We saw it, unfortunately for him, but Snazy just clutching up so well.
Yeah, a little bit of revenge there because we did see Thomas take down his teammate, of course, a little bit earlier. But I mean, Snazy just being put in this situation. You can see top left, the placements, they just keep going down and down and down. He's just securing all of those points, which is why we see them find themselves in 4th place after just game number 1. I mean, and of course, you know, you got to face up against Vino and Queasy right at the end there. Vino's on one wall, Queasy's on the other. Not much you could do at that point.
Yeah, that's right. It's the final bosses of the lobby, right? Queasy and Vino, of course, just looking to just dominate once again, just kind of do what they do on the daily basis, you know? My question, though, about them is now, can they keep this up, right? We sometimes see them start really strong and then start to lose a little bit of gas, but maybe that won't happen here.
No, I mean, Queasy and Vino are known for always going for high ground. They're known for always being able to just find themselves up on high ground. I mentioned earlier, the joke was made, I blinked and they were up there. I'm sure that'll happen again.
I think it was almost literally, I think we literally blinked and they went on high ground. It was actually genuinely a blink and they were on high ground. Of course, the zone was in their favor that game, of course, up on that north side of the map. So I'm interested to see whether they will be able to continue if the zones start pulling a little bit more south. But this is Queasy and Vino that we're talking about. They have all of the answers to the questions that the lobby can answer them, and I'm sure they'll continue to do well.
That's right. Well, guess what? That is it for now, because we have game number 2 ready to go. How will the action continue to unfold? Let's find out in the FNCS.
If after watching them dominate in game 1, you are wondering whether or not Queasy and Vino will continue to dominate, the answer is yes. A very simple yes. Of course, yes, they had the zone, and that is always going to play to their hand. But this is a cerebral duo that has the answer for anything that poses their way.
Unless there's 49 other teams that could try to stop them. They land towards the north side, Queasy and Vino. Everybody else has a chance to get their early surge, to get their resources, to get their mats. And I'm making it sound easy, because after that game number 1, it is definitely one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah, it's never going to be easy, right, to keep coming back again and again. Of course, if you weren't one of the teams that pulled that north zone, you land in that general area, you might be thinking, hopefully we do get a zone that goes in our way this game. And we get to find out right now, the battle bus is ready. The players are looking to jump in. Who's it going to be in game number 2, Jacob? Does anybody want to see step up now?
I just want to see great Fortnite games. I don't have my pick just yet. I want to see that after game 3, maybe games 4. I'm going to look at the leaderboard, seeing who I want to see step up. But Kylie and Vico is one of those teams. I love to see them, regardless if they're stepping up, stepping down, building around. They're just one of the more entertaining teams here on EU.
Yeah, and they won this fight off spawn last game, and so you'd like to see them come in and do it again. That Falcon Scout, he wanted to use it, but it didn't actually create an opening for him to be able to use it. Nevertheless, though, for Kylie, of course, we saw him deep into that last game. Didn't have Vico with him, so I'm sure that will be the goal this time round to turn things in their favor. But for Tilton, they might decide, look, we don't want smoke with these guys. They are just too powerful of a duo. The firepower that Vico and Kylie hold is a very, very scary sight. And so, yeah, they're just going to run out of Slappy. They don't even want those problems. Zara actually is going to run into them as well. So a lot going on here.
Just like yesterday, it continues with the Falcon Scout. People are using it a little bit more and more each and every game, each and every day. Just try to scan, try to get that information, figure out where players are positioned at.
And you said you wanted to know whether or not NA and EU, whether the EU players would be watching and learning from the NA boys. We're seeing more Falcon Scouts, we're seeing more Mythic Pistols. So clearly they were watching yesterday because that was a ever-present theme in the NA games.
Yeah. It's going to be something I think that you continue to follow suit. Sometimes when you just get that augment for the mythic tactical pistol, you just have to grab it. It's almost a must-have at this stage in the game as Vexy and the Bull. You see them last very, very long into that last game. 7 eliminations throughout the course of it. And it started here, but man, what a shot. Dropped down to 4 HP. Kenti is in trying to get through the box. They separated these players into 2 different 1v2s, and it already works out with the first one going down.
The Buell was not ready at all when he went knocking on that floor. And the answer was given to him. A big shotgun shot to ruffle some feathers here as Vexy and the Buell, who did so incredibly well in that first game. And now for Vexy, he has to try and do his best to save the game.
And the choice is definitely there for the Totem duo. Do you want to disengage? Do you back off, take what you can get? Or do you know your POI, your landmark, your drop spot, and you know that not many teams are around, which is the important part. If you know that it's empty, you know that you have all the time in the world, you can go straight in. Vexy trying to take advantage, landing a couple of good shots, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, unfortunately for Vexy, they're going to have to wait and watch this game play out. We would have loved to see them sort of do a repeat of what they did in game 1, but it just is not going to play out that way for them.
I like this Axe Force and Vortexers over towards Breakwater Bay. It's not one of those POIs that produces the most insane of results, but it's definitely one of those POIs that has shown if you can come out on top, you can set yourself up for a good game. Nothing else matters. It's Pixie and Delay having a good game last week, unable to keep that consistency up, looking to make some real adjustments throughout the course of the next 6 to try to have just a much better performance, something they can really be proud of at the end of the day. But sticking low to the low ground, not a ton of resources, no minis, no real heals. He's just trying to farm up. So that way when push does come to shove, he can at least defend himself. He can jump around. He can waste a ton of time before he has to try to go in for the elimination.
Yeah, Vortexes and Axe Force. Definitely a team to watch out for today. Whether or not they win this fight is a different question. I'm sure we'll follow that throughout the day. Of course, these Breakwater Bay fights can be long and drawn out like this one. Nevertheless, though, we have plenty more action taking place all over the map. And sometimes it's hard to follow that action, Jacob. And so fortunately for us, we have the wonderful Taco to update us on the sidelines. Taco, what you got for us this game?
Well, Levin, as it would turn out, there's been a lot of hot drop spot action, and it's not foreign to Glubshy and JJ2. They actually managed to secure an elim victory for themselves at their initial drop spot POI, so it'll give them an actual opportunity in round number 2, because in game 1, they were actually eliminated, so excited to see how they keep it moving forward.
Of course, Glubshy and JJ2, this is a duo that came 4th in week 1 of the qualifiers, and so they mounted a large amount of series points. They're going to try and repeat that today. And winning off spawn is definitely going to be the pathway to doing that. Winning another fight here would definitely go a long way as well. And so for X3, he will be eagerly hoping that his duo will be able to step up, because he now has been relegated to the spectator slot.
This is honestly a scary sight that we might see with Glubshy and JJ2. Last week, first place. Day 1, first place. Day 2, first place. Overall, first place. Best average placement. Most eliminations, beating out Queasy and Vino by 1. All they have to do is play to that same consistent game plan that they've had up until this point. And you best believe you're going to see them directly into the FNCS Grand Finals.
You'd like to hope so, of course. Snazy and Andalex, we saw their game fall apart towards the end. Right, those moving zones were definitely harsh on them, but this is a very experienced duo. A duo that will always be relevant, the top of the French scene in many, many chapters, many seasons. And I'm a big fan of them as well. I used to always say Allez Le Bleu every time I saw them on screen. I've sort of moved on from that. But still big fan, big fan.
Hey, we're all fans right now. I'm a fan of, honestly, whoever makes those high-flying, daring, risky plays. Being proactive is the key for me, and that's kind of who I get drawn to. Queasy Vino going to be one of those teams. Marius and Fred next. They have an opportunity here try to have that attribute onto themselves. Arthur and Piotr trying to rotate through as well. A lot of these teams, we talked about it to start the day, the split drops, uncontested, disengaging out of the fights instead of getting aggressive for Surge, which means you're going to have to worry about it while you rotate through. Some teams fare well, other teams do not. And this is one of those teams I'm really interested to see after that first game. They only have 4 points so far, where they end up at the end of this one.
Thomas and Malabik will be hoping they can end up much higher in the standings than they did last week. Of course, that first game, not anything incredible by their standards, but definitely a good starting point, a decent foundation. And we're seeing the foundation of what makes up a good game from them here. Of course, looking to base up, create some angles to take some shots. A very similar setup from Seti over here as well. Split up from Cammy in that sense, but they both are positioned on different hills just to cover more angles, cover a larger area, increase their general map control. And they'll be hoping players rotate through this area just so that they can start picking away, taking shots where possible.
Hard fighting Mighty Pelican over here towards Faulty Splits. Still rather congested, about 5 teams still trying to loot up. Plenty of metal to gather. Over on this side is Hardfine just peeking through, waiting for Helix or Tilton, one of these players, to get out of position. Peek a little bit too much. That's what he's going to try to attack. This Super Eye, F-Binds just trying to get in the box, fighting deep into the storm. Backs up against the wall. Third-party shots beginning to come in as well. Got to think a fourth party and a fifth party is looming nearby, and you can even see the distance being closed. They're just trying to escape. They're trying to disengage, even if that means going deeper into the zone.
Yeah, and it's always so awkward. There's just so many different teams around, especially when you're trying to find a solution for Surge. You almost find yourself stuck in these little traps of all these different teams causing you different issues. They can often derail your game completely if you're not careful, and that might just be what's happening for them here. F-Binds on the receiving end of some shots from Voltiax and Mesa. They obviously didn't go down the sport. They made peace with Hardfind and his duo mate.
Just trying to rotate out as this one goes sort of center in terms of where it's at, but more on the western side. So a lot of these teams having to rotate, so making the conscientious decision to focus on the rotate, worry about Surge later on. Might be fruitful for some. And for iDrop and Mr. Savage over towards Anvil Square, just trying to pick up all the scraps. And honestly, iDrop, he doesn't really need much else. 12 splashes, 3 bigs. I think their focus right now at this stage of the game is going to be looking for Surge. I talked about it moving towards the west, staying a little bit center. So they're hoping for all those teams that are towards the northeast side of the map that they have to go through them in order to get to the zone.
Yeah, and the good thing is that with the zone pulling to the west, that is certainly going to happen. You are going to get a lot of teams rotating their way on in. So there will be opportunities like this one here for iDrop where you can just sit above here and just take shots. He obviously has a bunch of chug splashes as well. They have a lot of shields. And so you'll definitely feel obliged to maybe peek a little bit more than you would do if you didn't have that luxury of extra shields. In the same vein here, Hardfind and Pelican aren't working with much, right? Of course, the start to their game was a bit fragmented with an Osborne fight that ended up being a disengage, and so they are desperately trying to find anything, almost a llama in the form of an easy opponent to fight that they can use, setting up for a little box fight situation.
I like the way he's playing this too, staying true to his name. Make it really hard to find which angle he's coming from. But you knock on that door a few times, they're gonna answer. They're gonna answer big. 100 tag right off, making them second guess that decision. Falcon Scout being used, spotting their location, making sure that they know exactly where they're at in every moment. And it's not even in their actual inventory. They're making the decision to kind of drop, quickly use it, and pick it right back up. And that is a lot of teamwork, because if they time that right, they could break through while they don't have their defenses ready. As Hardfine continuously trying to stay up against the walls. Mighty Pelican have the high ground, and if that's where I asked the question, Levin. When do you give up on the play? Probably never, because you finally get in. Tilturn goes down, and a huge save from Mighty Pelican. Bait and switch between the two.
Yeah, they were never going to give up on that play, right? They were down below on Surge. They needed to take that fight to keep them in the game, and winning it out was a necessity for them, so good to see that happen.
143 above the damage threshold for Snazy and Andalix. Uncontested, proving to be the key to their early game. They're able to rotate freely, loot up, get the position that they want, and begin to look for Surge. Even though it's only 103, you got to believe they're just trying to be proactive. JJ2 and Glubshy, you got to think with the Jelly Angler Augment, just trying to top themselves off. And with the zone moving over towards the west, the chances of all these waters are still going to be there. So you can see them holding on to the fishing rod. That way, if push comes to shove, they can continue to trade for Surge and continue to fish for jellyfish.
JJ2 and Glubshy, they're starting to move their way towards Ambush Squad. There'll be a couple teams there. If they can get in, start to refarm, things won't be looking too bad as they make their way into zone. Vico and Kylie, though, on the complete other end. On that different side, way deep in the storm, but making their way on in. That med miss is going to be very, very useful for Vico. Allow him to get up a decent amount as well.
Different change-up of game. In game number 1, they got those early game eliminations, feeling comfortable to rotate, not having to worry about Surge. This time around, it's a huge switch up. Just like Deox and Mappy, 2v1 situation, but Deox is feeling the pressure, getting backed up little by little in zone, taking tick by tick. For luckily for him, he does have the splashes. Nom's feeling that same bit of comfortability in terms of splashes, but using the last one, only 100 on the med miss. So he has to think rather quickly about what he wants to do here in this situation, as Mappy and Deox don't want to let this guy escape. This is 4 points. This is a refresh, a siphon. This is resources for them in their end game.
Yeah, and as good of a setup as they have typically in the early and mid game. This is such an awkward zone for them, rotating all the way across the southeast side of the map towards the west. They have to cross paths with so many different teams, and to avoid that, they end up spending more materials, more shields, and end up in situations stuck in the zone like this. If they could recover in this game, it would be a sign of what a top team they truly are.
Talk about recovering after that last game. 38 points, at least it's something for Merstash and Tayson. But in their heads, they're worth more than just that. But including week 1, Merstash and Tayson have at least 30 points in each of their last 6 games. So even though I'm saying that it's not quite a lot for them, that's consistency. For some of these teams at the top of the leaderboard, they could slip up. And for Merstash and Tayson, they don't have that same trend. This is going to be Frednex and Maris, 29, above the damage threshold. They don't feel safe. They don't feel comfortable at all because they know a gust of wind can blow them right below, and then they have a lot to worry about as they spot Malibuka and Thomas trying to rotate through. That's going to make them a focus. There goes that gust of wind I was talking about. Now they're below. Have to be proactive of figuring out where they're going to get these shots from. They're already at the edge of zone, so they're not going to come very easy as Refguard takes down Mighty Pelican. Him and Hellsfire trying to have a much better performance than that last game as well.
Those guys completely blown away at the hands of Hellfire and Refguard.
In comes Noms again. Gotta be careful. He is a solo.
I'm not sure if they're aware that he's actually there. I think they might start getting the sound cues in a moment. A replay though of that first Refguard limb.
Tough.
Not much Hardfire can do that.
Yeah, it's just tough. One of those situations to where you get stuck and you're just praying for a miracle, which don't always happen. It's Mr. Savage and iDrop. They already have 3 eliminations. Just trying to get in towards zone. Savage is trying to find that sweet spot. iDrop just trying to catch up. And that's why you can see him using a lot of his wood, a lot of his soft mats, so that way he can save those hard mats. And when he reunites along with Savage, taking some shots on his way there, instantly popping that shield keg, trying to get the most optimal usage out of it. But that almost gives away the sign that they are weak for any team that is near them.
And Frednex and Marius, they're just going to actually just use the shield keg, right? Of course, sitting in a couple boxes away, they will still be able to pick it up. Now cap them off to 200 HP, and they'll say thank you very much to their Norwegian friends in the lobby.
Whoa.
This is not looking good. Queasy is down. And so it's up to Vino all alone, and he's not looking too hot when it comes to his inventory. You can see obviously that PD's plunder there, the map, the treasure map, allowing him to find some loot, but again, at this stage in the game, it's very unlikely he'll be able to actually use that. And doesn't have any shields, just sitting at 45 in that regard.
And because he's by himself, what do you call it, a max pull by any means, but he doesn't even have the choice to rotate first. He doesn't have a shockwave hammer. So he has to kind of wait for everybody else to begin to bypass him before he can make his own decision. As Malibuca and Thomas peeking through the cone, gathering the information. They spot Kylie and Vico on the side. And you'd imagine if they spotted out that the Jelly Angler augment is in use, it goes to show that they might have one less slot, one less item to use to their advantage. It's Kyrie and Pings just trying to get to the zone, much like everybody else. But checking the bushes first this season with the Bush Warrior augment. You got to make sure you check every bush.
Of course, always got to be alert. Even in previous seasons without the augments, right, people would always make sure to do that. Never know who's going to be hiding in a bush. These guys will be hoping that they can find somebody just rotating past them out in the open, because they can certainly do with the damage. It seems like they found their target, but will they be able to connect is the question. Vino now, still in this game, and he's found some shields actually that allow him to get himself up, so not too bad if you ask me. That Peely's Plunder, I guess, did come in handy. Didn't think he'd actually be able to find it or use it, but nevertheless, the game goes on for Vino.
At this point, Vino's just saying never say never, and even as a solo, he finds himself a little bit of height, watching his back, just making sure, pick and choose in a lot of these situations. Spots that player inside of the cone, immediately tries to take advantage. That player doesn't even know what he just escaped with Vino knocking on that door, but 20 above. He knows his job's not just done yet. 12 continues to fall, and that's why you see him trying to get proactive, peeking left and right, trying to find anybody showing any sign of their bodies. That way he can try to tag them up.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game for Vino Bron. Vino Bron, Lavino, whatever you want to call him, he has to access his inner GOAT energy if he has any chance of making waves in this game. Thomas HD and Malibuca. A long rotation they'll have to make. The question is, if Malibuca does have a hammer, it might be a bit easier for them. If he doesn't, they're going to have to start getting creative, and you can see already how hungry they are. They realize the opportunity is here. Vico's down. Kylie is trying to run away, and they might just actually catch him out. They have some of the builds here. They have some of the edits, and so as Kylie starts to waltz around these walls that aren't his, he starts to get punished. He will fall as well. They're not the ones to pick it up. And I'm not sure if they'll be able to get the loot either.
Unless they know that player was below him. There was an additional player that was knocked down. They're not going to be able to get any of the loot, like you said. The team that was right near him, shockwaving first, letting them know, hey, we got what we came for. Now we're trying to get out. Kyrie taking a huge tag, trying to get out with the shockwave hammers. And we're seeing that bittersweet effect. Yeah, it's going to get you to the zone, but at least you're vulnerable as Vino, once again, under pressure. Danger Hero playing a huge role in his survival. 179 above the damage threshold. Somehow, he is making things work as a solo.
Vino is a monster. And it's very hard to stop him at times, but you've got to think he's coming to the end of the road here. He's running out of gas, running out of fuel, and there is not a petrol station anywhere nearby. It's only a matter of moments, the whole lobby looking at him, and Vino eventually will tumble away. But that's not the end of that duo today. Their story will continue.
Set themselves up with a nice cushion. After that game, number one, nobody's perfect. They prove they're human just like everybody else in the lobby. Marius and Frednex, top 10 in each of the last 4 games going back to week number 1. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. These guys just need to hold on to that consistency. Front side of the zone, they have a little bit of height as well. They got themselves a nice recipe to put some damage onto the rest of the lobby. With 3 eliminations so far, got to be sitting with at least a little bit of confidence up until this point.
Yeah, some nice shots being hit there. And we saw these guys posturing for height in previous games. Will they be able to hold on to it? That is the question. Of course, some of the biggest height top dogs are out of this one. For Groves and Fire Hunter, we know they can win games. That's in their arsenal. But when you don't have builds, it's very hard to do so. So a hammer right into somebody's box. Oh my goodness. Groves falls. It was a very ambitious attempt. Nevertheless, we like to see those kind of plays be made. Fire Hunter, I'm sure, watching from behind thinking, look, I wanted to hammer you. I'm not sure if I wanted to hammer you there. Nevertheless, I have to keep it moving now. I have to hammer myself and hopefully not into somebody's box. Not into somebody's cone. That is going to be his that he can place down. And he is going to patiently wait. Just wait for people to catch up in the zone. Up above, though, you can see Albie still looking to hold it. Still looking to pressure people. He knows what it feels like to be down below in these situations. But with that mythic pistol in hand, He can keep applying that pressure, keep making it awkward. Malabuka, though, going for a play, a tactic that we haven't quite seen much of in the FNCS, but making use of them augments again. The balloon play, if this works out for Malabuka, I'm going to lose my mind.
I'm not going to say anything other than let's cross our fingers and hope for a huge ending from Malabuka. Drop down low on the height. He doesn't want to wait for the ending. He wants to attack sooner rather than later. But a huge play is not going to work out for them. But I give him an A+ for the efforts. Let me tell you that. As Seti, Cammy letting those eliminations get loose. They get their second of the game. And this is where a team like Seti and Cammy begin to pick up the pace.
This is where they start to show they are legends. Pink and Nebinator still in this game. A better opportunity for them to show what they can do than we saw in game 1. The zones have been more favorable to them, and they've played them perfectly up to this point. They have to keep going, though. Marius, for a moment there, I thought he might try and make a height play. We've seen players do that with a hammer in hand. Needs to get up second height, though. He's going to start getting pressured. There's another team on his layer as well, so not the most comfortable positions by any means. He needs to start moving out. He's going to get boxed up. He's going to get pieced up if he's not careful. He doesn't have order control here. Barely getting out by the skin of his teeth, but gets dropped down again. Fortunately, Mr. Savage is not able to connect, but he will start to connect onto Zara there, and in the process losing eye drop. So now Mr. Savage's hopes of doing something in this game are starting to dwindle. No materials left either.
A slippery fish on a boat gets right and back into the ocean. A Savage is trying to heal. Danger Hero along with the Menmis gonna get him up to 100 in no time. He does have some speed boost to work with, using it to perfection to take down Shimoki. Once again, Danger Hero and Menmis, two great opportunities for Mr. Savage to make a run of a lifetime. They have 8 eliminations as a duo so far, getting himself into the top 5, but he is the only solo left in the game.
Stuck in between a rock and a hard place, but we've seen him there many times before with his back against the wall. Can he get out? Ludwig, Albi, still up above. This has been an easier game for them to hold height, with so much chaos down below, and players now having to move up that hill. Nebinator will fall, Pink will follow suit as well. That's going to be Zangi taking both of them out, and he might have more to do in this one as well. Zara being taken out there as well. Mr. Savage still kicking it, but for not much longer. Seti and Cammy, they've been able to just sit here and watch. They don't have many eliminations by any means, but these last couple are the crucial ones. No materials means that the hammer play has to come out. They have to be desperate. They have to go for broke in this one now, and a big shot connecting. Albi's still surviving, though.
Yep, great shockwave hammer. Albi's just going through it. He's surviving, but on a thread as the pressure continues. Now Ludwig is feeling the same, but he has 7 splashes. He can stagger himself in, he can stagger himself out, or he can straight go for the victory royale, taking out both Cammy and Seti.
A brilliant display of a height win from Albi and Ludwig, playing the zones to perfection, holding on when necessary, and hitting the crucial shots in the final moments against the Polish Titans themselves, the winners of the FNCS Invitational. We know those guys are cold-blooded in these kind of final moments, but still, they were no match for Albi and Ludwig, who are, again, putting on the show up here.
And you see that cheeky effort from Malabuka yet again. But it goes to show, you take height at the right time and you hold on to it, you set yourself up for game after game just like this. It's like taking candy from a baby. They're looking down at all these players going through one another on that low ground chaos, making it look easy.
Look, the amount of eliminations they had, Jacob, it was more than just a bit of candy. It was a whole boatload of candy that they were taking away from everybody in the lobby. And just hitting countless amounts of shots. You see there, even in an uncomfortable position, he's sliding, he's falling, he's still hitting shots, Ludwig. A brilliant, brilliant game from a duo that I don't think many people at home would have been expecting to see have that kind of performance. But nevertheless, here in the FNCS, the round 3, qualifier 2, they show up.
Yeah, I said it. If those superstars aren't going to rise to the top, these underdogs, these players that are not necessarily trying to make a name for themselves, but just to add on to their legacy, they're going to snatch it away from you.
Brilliantly done from that duo, but there was plenty more to be understood about that game. The best people to do it, Zeke, Vivid, and Mini.
Thank you guys so much. Quite the game this last game, from underdogs finding a victory royale to Malabuka having the party time, you know? Great overall game. EU looking very different than NA East in week number 2.
Very different indeed. Of course, we saw Malibuka using that crazy party time augment to do some crazy plays. I was not expecting that. We haven't really seen that in duos too much. We've seen it in solos and some of the victory cups, but in duos, it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was just going to ride that out the entire time throughout that end game. Like, I saw this screen, I was like, you know what? That's a free second place. But you know Malibuki, he is a playmaker. He tries to go for the quick elim here on the Ludwig, but unfortunately, apparently Ludwig is just way too good, way too aware. Hits that clean shot right there. And on the back foot of actually not going down the Malibuka, they were, of course, able to go ahead and secure that victory royale, which is why we find them on top of the leaderboard now.
First place for this team, Victory Royale. Zeke, they're doing pretty good so far.
Hey, I mean, up 17 places. Why not? 137 points after just game number 2. My goodness, Albi and Ludwig. Now, again, this is the same question I asked about last game, right? Queasy Vino. It's about momentum, right? You find yourself a Victory Royale, but can you keep those paces moving? Because remember, we're looking for consistency. You can't have one pop-off game. You have to have multiple.
Yeah, you do. And the way to have a pop-off game is, of course, high ground. We saw this team taking high ground pretty early on. But, of course, what gave them the opportunity to do that? Queasy and Venom. They went down. What was it? 3rd zone, 4th zone. They went down very, very early. The barn door was wide open for a team to take on high ground. And who better than Albi and Ludwig to take on that challenge? It's 12 eliminations as well. They were able to pick up refreshes and stay on that high ground really, really well. And even use the terrain to their advantage just to sort of let all those players down below sort of battle it out. And then they just rode it out.
Yeah, 100%. As soon as they seen that hill, they were like, listen, just ramp up, get as high as we possibly can above that, stay elevated. But yeah, I just love EU so much, right? Because there's the amount of respect that Queasy and Vino have in these types of lobbies. As soon as they go down and some other team is on the high ground, there's almost nobody that can test them because people are so afraid of Queasy and Vino. But not to take anything away from Albi, of course. I mean, that game was just played out flawlessly from them. Them getting that free high ground, they able to just build out, make sure that they find those eliminations, find the refreshes. I mean, they played that perfectly.
Yeah, it just shows how much respect, as you mentioned, that Queasy and Vino have, how much confidence that they have that as soon as Queasy and Venom aren't in the game, that is free high ground. We used to have it in EU where we had a few different high ground teams. We had, you could sort of name 5 or 6 teams that were going to go for high, but it just shows how dominant Queasy and Venom are on that high ground that if they're no longer in the game, nobody else is going to be bothering to go up for it before, because now Queasy and Venom are out. They can just go for it. Anyone can go for it, and it's not like a case of 1, 2, 3, 4 teams. It's anyone's game. And of course, we saw Albi and Ludwig playing it very, very well.
Yeah, so what do you guys think happened? Like, because Queasy Vino, I mean, we watched Vino just be put in a really, really tough spot there, just trying to survive, taking the ire of the entire lobby, saying, okay, you guys are down, just stay out, we want to play a game. So what went wrong for them?
Ultimately, I mean, pressure was on. We saw it when we tuned into Vino. Queasy was unfortunately got picked off throughout that mid game, so something went wrong with the rotate maybe. Some team got a little bit aggressive on them. Just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, tough rotation for them, I think, was the ultimate cause of their elimination. It was one of those situations where I think they've already pretty much qualified through to the grand finals already. They are playing for, confidence. They're playing for that practice, of course, as well. So they'll be able to look at that. They'll be able to think, okay, actually, that was a wrong rotation. Queasy will definitely look at that and think, actually, let's play it out a little bit differently. But I have no doubts that they should already be in grand finals with the way that they're playing.
Yeah, for sure. Once again, it's just about the adaptability, right? Is there anybody, any other duos kind of standing out to you? That last game was absolutely insane.
Yeah, Sarah and his duo partner. Of course, what a fantastic performance in that end game from this duo. An incredible performance because we've seen this duo popping off in certain situations before, but this is one of those games where they just put it all on show.
Yeah, you see him right here. I mean, it looks like a desperate situation, right? 0 builds to actually work with. But in situations like these, you like to stick towards the back of the zone, right? Look for any other players who are in a similar situation to you and find those quick and easy eliminations. So shout out to this duo for making sure that they made the most of that, even though they didn't really have much to work with. Also, I want to shout out, we see him out that end game right now while we're checking out Zangi, Cami, and Seti getting that 2nd place that game as well. Again, playing from that low ground.
Yeah, huge performance from those guys, of course, on that low ground play. Unfortunately, they didn't quite close out with the victory royale, but with how Cami and Seti are playing, we mentioned it at the beginning of the show, they can keep those consistent placements going. And of course, 2nd place, they will take that. Not too crazy on the eliminations, 11 so far, not quite matching that of Albi and Co, but what a performance from them.
Yeah, I mean, also Mr. Savage, right? Finding themselves there. That solo effort, right? Again, it's these little things, right? We just need to make a couple games like this, string together a few eliminations, and we could actually try and secure ourselves a spot in grand finals.
That's what it's all about, right? Every single placement that you gain throughout these weeks, it's all about the series points. You want to make sure that you can find yourself in the grand finals and ultimately that global championship.
Yeah, of course, we saw Mr. Savage, of course, clutching up as a solo right there. We've seen him do that before, way back on this region, right? Everyone remembers the clip. And of course, not quite having the same success in that one, but of course, iDrop will be so happy with how Mr. Savage is playing because he's such an incredible solo player. He trusted him right there.
Yeah, 4 more games, right? Yep. It's still good. We're still fine. 4 more games here in EU. How is it all going to go? Let's find out. I don't want to keep you waiting. This is game number 3.
You know, Levin, I said I wanted to see more action this week than we saw last. And thank you, EU, for serving me up a full plate.
Yeah, it's been delivering for sure. We have game number 3 right around the corner. It's been a fun day. I'm ready to see who else can provide some high-intensity moments for us.
Yeah, and with 4 games left, there's still a ton of opportunity for some of these teams, some of these players to rise up the ranks, rise up the leaderboards. I was a little drastic yesterday, calling 3rd game the halfway point. Destiny is no longer out of your control. You're right, 5th, 6th game. I expect to see it.
Yeah, look, I'm sure the players will step up when the moment comes. I think for some of these teams, we're seeing them having to adapt to all these different situations, and here in game 3, a new environment to adapt to, where will the zones pull? What augments will you get? Will you win or spawn? These are the questions we have to immediately answer. With the bus pulling from that northwest towards the southeast, you can expect to see a bunch of fun happening here in the Citadel already off spawn. And here at Breakwater Bay as well.
A little bit spread out over towards Breakwater Bay, which kind of gives them the dual edge. Depending on your drop spot, depending on what floor loot you find right out of the gate, you could quickly go at it, begin to butt heads. You don't find what you want, there's plenty of spacing between the two that you can instantly try to continue to loot up, prolong your game, and even disengage. Yusri and Kadu, one of those teams that they've been going at it off spawn each and every game.
Yeah, for Kiduo and Yusri. An opportunity here to start to rise the ranks in the leaderboard if they can win this fight off spawn. Erkin and Buzz gonna be their opponents. And not playing this too fast. Again, just looking to try loot up, get the mats that they can. And now things might speed up as their positions have been revealed. And so Yusri and Kiduo now have the chance, of course, looking to open that safe, get the extra gold, in case they want to re-roll some of their augments.
That's a very crucial, I think, point that I don't think we really touched on just a ton. The gold usage to re-roll your augments. I think there's been more gold on the map than in prior seasons, which you can find them. You can add it to your loot path. It'll be very fruitful.
And it looks like they might not even look to fight this at all. Erkin looking to get out. Buzz gonna follow as well. And so maybe a wise disengage, you'd say, from those 2 teams, or 2 players, I should say. Vico, though, in a bit of trouble. Kylie is nowhere to be found, and his opponents are very much on the hunt still.
Just a few inches below. Trying to get up towards where Vico is at while farming slap juice barrels along the way. Giving themselves as much shield as possible for what they think is an inevitable fight against Vico, who's doing a good job playing hide and seek, but Tilter and Helix. This is one of those situations where as long as he's directly in the POI, it's not something you want to let escape, but it makes it even harder when you have one dangerous team on the other side of North Slappy, uncontested, able to put those third-party shots down, which makes your decision to try to close it out that much harder.
Yeah, and of course, if you're tasting the mustache, you'll be mighty chuffed about the way this is playing out towards the south side. A lot of chaos is great for them, something that they can capitalize on. Of course, if you're Vico, you'll be hoping that these guys will just give it a rest at some point, but no, they are very persistent. And in a matter of moments, you've got to think they'll find him. He's right there hiding behind that desk. Oh, did I know?
He's playing Fortnite.
He spotted the shotgun. Tilton spotted the shotgun, so they know they're ready, and they'll push in. Still have to worry about tasting the mustache from afar, though. But it does look like Vico's time will be cut short in this game.
That was just a great find right there. It just goes to show how patient they were actually being to spot out just a movement. You see Ping and Kyrie going up, going high in the sky with the impulses to take height as soon as possible and immediately aggress onto that solo player. Break it through the box. Maven shotgun ending their run yet again. Lonely Labs is not theirs. That's plenty of metal to go around and set themselves up quite nicely. Hyrax and Durs in another similar position. Caught out in the open is not going to be the best thing as they continue to on their loot path to find themselves the best loadout before they can try to build themselves a tower in the sky and look for Surge.
Back over to Breakwater Bay. Again. Things just moving rather slowly here. No sudden movements on the side of Vortexes, but very much aware of the fact that his opponents are eager to figure out where exactly he is and what exactly he's doing.
Team try to spot him out with the Falcon Scout. Very good early game usage for those players that do split the drop. And for Seti and Cammy, you see them sitting nicely in 3rd place. They found those eliminations late into the game, sticking true to their game plan through and through of where and when to find those eliminations, where and when to get the surge. They try to play a such passive game very, very early on. Let the lobby tear each other apart before they join in on that fun. And Hellspire and Refsguard, another one of those teams with all the experience in the world. If you're contested, sometimes it may not yield the best results as Deoxy and Mappy getting a couple of eliminations for themselves, setting themselves up for Surge. And a lot of these teams that are splitting the drops, you can see they're hunting for the Surge elsewhere, and they sometimes just end up in the wrong path against the wrong players.
Yeah, you always have to be wary of the teams all around you, right? In terms of when you're setting up for your positions. You have to maybe rotate to go get your Surge as well, right? Who can you potentially hold along the way?
Looking around, Albie and Ludwig, 1st place, to see what they do in their early game. And honestly, that's a great loadout. Shockwave Hammer, an Epic Thunder, plenty of heals. The patented Red Eye to get the Surge. They're setting themselves up for a possible back-to-back as Flodax and Rifty end up box-to-box against another team. You can see an early game skirmish, trading for Surge, splashing themselves back up to what they think could be a prolonged fight, especially since they know they did a good amount of damage onto at least one player who got cleaned up by a whole nother team.
It looks like they're actually just going to leave. Of course, they do have the ways to go to get to zone, so again, not being too aggressive or over ambitious, prioritizing staying in this game. Of course, they still do need quite a bit, even with the amount of shields they have. A lot of brick and metal needing to be acquired. Can't say the same for Snazy though. He's looking good when it comes to his materials.
And this is a team that talked about back-to-back uncontested games. They get the pull on the western side. This time around, it is going to go a little bit toward the eastern portion of the map. You already see them making adjustments, trying to get there sooner rather than later. They don't want to get stuck on the congested side of the zone as Maris and Frednex. They like to go at it on these early game skirmishes, trying to go ahead and take the height, go up and above, bouncing around. They know the player's weak. Hearing the splashes go off, they're trying to go ahead and take advantage while they can. Piece control is going to be denied. Second time's the charm, but the shots are going to get traded off. Frednex bites off more than he can chew. He goes down. Jay and Cosmo trying to take advantage, but multiple players here in this fight, they're wanting to take a second chance, get the Surge of their own, and that's going to allow them to stabilize themselves here in a position as Maris has to back up. He has to get out and reposition.
And as good as Frednex has been in some of these games today, just getting caught out a bit too big for his boots. It does happen as the confidence starts to flow through your veins. Unfortunately, in this case, we'll be humbled. And we'll see how this fight plays out. Of course, both those players will be very eager to clean things up. In the case of Axe Force and Vortexes, they have a ways to get to zone. But their journey this game has been a very interesting one. We have Taco here on the sidelines to fill us in on what they've been up to.
That journey first started over in Breakwater Bay, Levin, because Axe-Force and Vortexers were actually caught up in an engagement for a very long time with Pixie and Della. They actually expended so much time and resources throughout this engagement that it even drew the attention of another duo. So Bad Sniper was actually able to collect one of the elims, of course, Axe-Forces and Vortexer, to make sure to finish off the rest. But now this rotation taking a little bit longer, so we'll see how they push through.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, right? Because now it feels like they're going to spend a lot of the game trying to play catch-up. When you invest that much time, it hinders you from being able to get the kind of loot you want. And so this is exactly what they need to do, right? Find these kind of elims, pick players off. And I said they need to play catch-up. They are catching up. This is a perfect situation for them.
They caught up to CZB all right. And you can see exactly how they did do that. CZB just taking too long by himself. You can see his teammate trying to close in on the distance, but as soon as he goes down, he just about faces, try to get out, goes a little bit deeper into zone. The reboot card is what his goal is eventually, but he has to go through Vortex and Axe Force, and the blessing is Zone's moving, Zone's pushing them in, so that reboot card, getting it is going to be a huge possibility, but getting the actual reboot might be a different story.
What have we walked our way on into here? This is a very, very messy fighting situation, and one that Queasy and Vino will look to capitalize on. They are, again, the lobby bosses. They play on max difficulty sometimes, and you cannot afford to slip up and make a mistake against these guys. You can't be prepared to come into the fight without being fully ready.
And the thing is, they know at least another team's there. Queasy dropped down, disengaged from the fight, and try to make sure that Vino stayed alive. Teamwork, trying to make the dream work, but now Flixie and Cheatin do have that high ground. You can see them going for the piece control against Vino and Queasy. That first one's going to be denied, but he's just trying to look for the scraps simultaneously. Anything's better than nothing as Vino strikes back, but takes a huge 97 tag.
Yeah, but the problem is Vino is that bear you do not want to poke. Things will start getting grisly for you if you do. Flixie, as good of a player as he is going to have to play his absolute best if he wants to be successful in this fight. Needs to keep hitting some big shots and looking to set up to do so. Doesn't quite have the angle there. The left-hand peek makes things just that bit more awkward. He's trying to come from behind or is cheating. Looks to attack from the front. They are setting up a decent pinch here, and one that actually might just catch Queasy out. No, Vino coming attacking, but no. Flixie again hitting a big shot. And I said things are going to get grisly. It's looking like it's that way for Vino as Queasy starts to return some fire.
Doing everything they can to save each other's life, but it's costing them so much health, so much shields. Vino took that first shot. He dropped down low. Now he's trying to shockwave hammer him and Queasy to safety. But the shots come in elsewhere. The third party trying to clean up Queasy. They know how dangerous anybody could be if you let them survive, and that's why Flixie's closing in on the distance. Queasy looking like he's getting cleaned up, but Vino with a huge tag. Siphon coming in for Flixie almost in the nick of time. Cheatin's full HP. They get the shockwave hammer. This is Vino's chance to try to get out alive. Shockwave hammering himself to safety. But what's going to be the play for him? Do you go on as a solo? Do you return to Queasy's reboot card? Because you saw that stat moments ago. Game 2, the first game in quite a while where we didn't have a player rebooted.
Hey, look, you certainly will want to get Queasy back into the game. He is, of course, a big part of that duo. And so we'll see whether or not Vino actually will be able to. I doubt they'll make it easy for him. They know he wants to get back to that card if possible. They might decide to just start pushing him as they are way up north. There's not going to be many teams around them. And so they could isolate that fight and make things very, very awkward for Vino. Regardless, over here, Zangi and Zara over towards the Slappy Shores.
This is where you can, honestly, depending on where you're at, they're stacked on metal, but you can kind of get a lot of the scraps that some teams may have left behind, one of them being Tayson and Merstash. You see how separated they are, just continuing to kind of loot up. Merstash going for Surge, making sure that they have every facet of their game plan covered. 371 above the damage threshold, very little to worry about. So they're just kind of biding their time, waiting to see where this next zone goes, gathering all the information so they know what is that next play that they are going to make.
Here we have some of the action that's taking place all around the lobby. Shamoki picking up an elim there. Vino picking up the reboot, and so, yeah. I said he'd want to bring his teammate back in, and he has.
Great thing about this reboot, though, is this is their POI. This is their landing spot. They know all the scraps they left behind, including the slurp truck. Easy shields for Vino and Queasy. So I think this is going to be an easy refarm or easy situation for them to loot up, get themselves back into the game. Best case scenario for Vino, no longer a solo.
Yeah, if these guys can get back into the swing of things, it'll be a very scary sight for everybody. It's good to see Frednex back in this one. Of course, we saw the struggles they were having, so we went from a game with no reboots to a game with quite a few here, it seems. This player is starting to get back into the swing of things. It is always tough, though, when you have to get rebooted so late into a game. Being able to actually find a loadout and then get some decent materials to work with is always going to be tough. It doesn't seem like Thomas will be able to reboot Malibu. We saw him go down not too long ago in the feed. So tough task in the hands of the Dane.
It goes to show that their progression week to week is getting better. But now, that 1v 66 situation for Thomas, trying to take over the rest of the lobby. There's a whole duo right below him, just trying to knock him down. Thomas trying to think outside of the box, drop when they wouldn't suspect it, but players in the distance see that one coming. Put down the shots, make him second guess that decision. Hellfire's gonna take down Andalex. A beautiful run, possibly coming to the end. 139 above the damage threshold for Thurs and Hyrax. So, interesting decision what they're gonna make here. You see Hellfire moving in. Snazzy was already down. And there goes the next one, Andalex soon to follow. Hellfire and Refsguard are just getting warmed up here. 3 eliminations, 640 above the damage threshold. Immediately trying to beeline it to zone. They don't have to worry, just like some of these other teams in the lobby do, about Storm Surge. So for them, it's just finding that good spot directly in towards the zone and just waiting for the next. So many other teams around them as it continues to pull north. That southern portion of the zone is going to be quite congested. And we saw the hero play coming out from Vino before. And if you look at the loadout now, you would honestly not even guess that Queasy went down and got brought back into the game.
But when I look at the mats, I certainly do see that story, because he's down very much in that regard, and he's having to expend some more just to be able to get to safety here. And so I do expect to see these guys look to make a play at some point rather soon.
Hyrax and Durs right next to Thomas. They know he's a solo. Probably use that as a green light to go. But Thomas on the other side, did give him the green light. Durs making that one look easy. Catching him off guard, trying to expand his box. Trying to hide the fact that he was a solo, but they spotted him out eons ago. They also needed that surge desperately after the elimination, only 55 above. So not feeling a huge amount of confidence when it comes to Sword and Surge, but they're feeling that breath of fresh air that they don't have to worry about for a few seconds. As Pink now under the pressure, Nev's gonna get dropped back against the zone, still taking a few amount of damage. He can just somehow get out as X-Squeeze and Podesai are closing in on the distance.
Yeah, and another game where, again, I hate to chalk it down to difficulties of zones, but you definitely assume that with it being, again, a brutal bastion area all the way up here in the north. They're above on Surge, but just barely, and running very, very low. They obviously land all the way at the south of the map, below Frenzy Fields. And Podesai and X-Squeeze able to profit off of their bad fortune.
They're probably just gonna disengage, get out. As Queasy and Vino just seem to be a target, a focus of everybody, but my gosh, because he make that player regret his decision, get aggressive on somebody else. But you got to imagine the effects of Storm Surge does to a lot of players in the lobby. Doesn't matter if you're above, you could still become on the receiving end of aggression for a team that is below, and that's exactly what I think might have happened there. Vino taking advantage. You can kind of see the loadout. Splashes, floppers, shockwave hammer, that mythic tactical pistol that we keep talking about. Really being a trendsetter here on EU. This is where that southern portion of the zone is just so stacked right now. Deox and Mappy found themselves a little bit of crevice they can hang their hat on, but spot out Clement and Deceptos trying to put out shots in the distance, trying to catch him off guard, but Mappy on the receiving end of an Excalibur shot, having to second guess that decision. Heals being shared between him and Deox, 300 above. They don't necessarily have to be proactive in terms of aggression, but they have to be proactive in terms of gathering that information.
And that's exactly why you'll see them scouting here. Peeking out of that cone, plotting their next move. Of course, where this 5th zone drops is going to be ever so important. There will be players who are already aware of that with the forecast augment. A change in hands here, though, as Vino is now the player down with no prospects of being rebooted. And Queasy left to fend for himself. I think I'd rather have Vino as a solo player, but nevertheless, you can never count Queasy out. One of the most experienced players in this lobby, and one of the biggest minds in it as well.
He's in a decent spot as long as he does not have to worry about Surge. He's right at the edge of the next zone. Teddy and Cammy, though, they got their one elimination, trying to play that passive, consistent game plan in which got him up to this point. They don't want to be stuck in the trenches down below, going up and getting pressured against a lot of these teams, and that's where you see them gaining elevation little by little. They're trying to get the supply drop. And he has an extra spot in his inventory. That launch pad could be fruitful for them if they don't have a shockwave hammer.
Yeah, it'll definitely go a long way. They can use everything they can get. Of course, they do have to start making their move. You can see there's a bunch of players around them looking to do the exact same. Albi and Ludwig, way above on Surge. They're not sitting in a bad spot at all. This could very well be another really good game for this team. Again, another one I don't think many people would have predicted to come into today and do as good as they've done. But certainly one that could take the rest of the lobby by storm and surprise everybody. Zara building up for a moment. I was thinking, hold on a minute, Zara, you're not playing with Mr. Savage. Oh, you box up next to him. But no, eyedrop is down. Zara.
It's a strength in numbers right there. He knows Mr. Savage is not his teammate, but he's hoping that nobody else in the lobby has that same information. And don't look up here. Just a duo, nothing to worry about. And you got to question, does Mr. Savage even know he's there in that position? I question Queasy's Surge, 770 above the threshold. He gets front side of zone as well. He has his shockwave hammer. And we know as well as I do, having a shockwave hammer is a whole different feel of confidence as a solo than you are as a duo, especially if you only have one to share between the two.
Yeah, of course. Gives you that extra bit of mobility and flexibility. Even if things don't go the way you want to, things go awry, you can always group that together and a lot simpler. Queasy looks like he's going to meet his match here as he falls in this game and will deliver a beautiful gift of a shockwave hammer along the way. The fight's not done though. There are some people that want to get that loot, but either way, Pings is like, nah, we're on our way. We got what we wanted out of that fight. And so now both of them with hammers available.
Gathering all the resources, immediately hammering to that front side of zone. Probably going to stagger themselves back, repeat that process until they get into the zone, trying to recycle as many of the resources as possible. Albi and Ludwig, we saw them take high ground, hold on to it towards the rest of the game, and they're setting themselves nicely. A great position through that mid layer, 6 moving zone. Now would be the time for them to contest it.
Yeah, Cammy now, way deep in the back, using a pad. He's picked up one already in this game and will look to do a bit more. And now, Cammy and Seti just sort of taking their spots where they can. Needs to be careful though, of course, there's so much chaos, people being dropped down all around the board, builds being broken, but they regroup.
It looked like they were going to go for the high ground, but they got separated to the shockwave hammer. Podesai, next squeeze, 4 eliminations, trying to get themselves to the front side of zone, along with Deox and Mappy, 3 eliminations above the threshold. The Storm deactivates for now. Kyrie and Pings, can they hold on to that high ground? This is going to be huge for them. They got plenty of small ammunition with that tactical mythic pistol to put down the pressure from above. They shockwave to the front side, almost gets knocked down, but connects to his teammate just in the nick of time to keep themselves and their high ground hopes alive.
Ardy and Slowbay down below aren't working with much by way of materials, but their spot is very, very nice. And Mappy might just start to run into it as well. You see everybody being funneled through this little hole there between the Glacier and Mappy, with a player right beneath his stairs. Going to have to use that hammer to get out of dodge. And he does a brilliant job of just scurrying away. That hammer is so effective for those kind of moments. Podesai and Squeeze, they're still in this one. And there is a team above them applying pressure. They might look to get involved in that if Pings and Kyrie aren't perfect in the way they hold it.
Podesai is that second team on second height, ready to contest if Kyrie and Pings get caught slipping. Mappy trying to stay front side of zone. Walks is by himself towards the side, staggering himself, let everybody go on past. And then you see the flurry of shockwave hammers going up and over this position as Pings trying to get to the front side of zone, going a bit too far, reunites with his teammate before they make it happen yet again. X-Squeeze and Podesai from 4 eliminations to 5, keeping it on a roll, finding Mappy backside of zone. A huge shot going to be fired, but that one's going to be a miss as he gets out alive.
Yeah, right now it doesn't really feel like anybody's establishing height, and so Taysom finally decides, hold on a minute, lads, let me step up, let me be the one to take it. And that's exactly what they've done. Gonna hammer right now down towards that front side, wants to establish and claim it a bit more. They're running low in terms of resources, and they need to be careful because the poles are right on their case, right on their back, looking to chop them out. And they might now look to start building up, but again, hammers causing chaos, relegating them down to the bottom, back to where they belong, on low ground, where they're comfortable. Pings doesn't have Kyrie anymore, but does have a shot lined up that he will take. And he actually starts to connect. Cammy will fall. He's stolen that one away. Say will be hoping now he can do a bit better to stay alive in this one, but with such low HP and not much time or space to work with, no materials either, it's going to be an uphill battle. Albi, Ludwig, they're still in this one. Not up on height, but still a big threat in this game.
Threatening to go back-to-back at that. This is going to be a huge opportunity. Tayson and Murstashko going to be one of the titans at the high ground, trying to deny every opportunity. Already tries to go up. He gets set right back down. Albi does the same, but down goes Murstash this time around. Tayson, backside of zone. He falls as well. Back-to-back from Albi. Can they do it again, Levin?
I said they weren't on height, but now they are, and they keep hitting shots. Chari falls. Ludwig is falling as well. But Albi, with 9 of them so far, looking for more. He's already picked up a bunch, but no. We'll have to settle for second. It's the French boys who take the victory out. Xyz and Podesite, like thieves in the night, come through slick at the end there to pick up the game. But what a moment that almost was for Albi. Ludwig and Albi putting on a showcase, but it's the French who take the win.
They were writing up the script. Albi, Ludwig, back-to-back. But the show was stolen away. You said like thieves in the night, Xyz and Podesite, saying you might not have seen him, but peekaboo, we see you. They take the game over. But Albi, with the heroic plays, taking down not only Murstash, but Tayson as well. This is what I came to see.
Murstash did not see that coming at all. I'd love to see it from his POV, just what he saw. Either way, if you're Podesite and Xyz, you'll be happy about the way you play. They're not worried about what Albi was doing. They're focused on the fact that they were able to pick up the victory out, and a very important one at that.
Yeah, very important opportunity for a lot of these teams. We saw some of these top rosters from that previous game go down very early on. So as this one does progress, it's going to be anyone's for the taking.
Yeah, look, we're going to send it back to Zeke and the analysts to break it all down.
Thank you guys so much. With now 3 games down, only 3 left to go. We almost saw the back-to-back. But again, just like every other game, if you can find yourself in even second place and that many eliminations, you don't even need the victory out, right? You've already caused shockwaves and ripples on those standings.
Yeah, great job from Aldi and Ludwig. I mean, they performed very well on that low ground section, and even on those mid ground layers, they did very well. And they, of course, took that high ground at the perfect moment. Tayson and Murstash caught napping, and they just performed incredibly well. Of course, couldn't quite close out the victory route for them. I think it just epitomizes what Tayson and Murstash haven't been able to do this season. They haven't been able to find themselves an identity. Unfortunately, they haven't really been able to find a high ground, low ground, mid style either. It's just been tough for them. But Albi and Ludwig taking all the advantages there.
You mentioned it, Vinny. I mean, the trifecta was accomplished this game. The low ground, they found some eliminations. Then they were like, all right, let's go up the mid ground. Let's cause a little chaos going on here. Found a couple of eliminations. Like, oh, you know what? High ground. Let's go up for that as well. Heck, I mean, just so well played in every single aspect. And the most impressive thing to me is that they are actually proving that they can play every single play style in an FNCS style lobby.
Yeah, they can. I mean, high ground again was open, and you know why? It's because Queasy and Veno, they went down early again. So everyone else was like, actually, you know what? Let's give it a go. And I think that's what we see more often than not. When Queasy and Veno do go down, there's a lot more of a turnover of high ground. And this is where the leaderboard comes into play because, oh boy, Albi and Ludwig will be up on top.
Does that say 26 total eliminations after 3 games?
Is that,
you know, that is a 2 and that is a 6, and that is also 241 points. So they have developed quite a lead. But to kind of circle back, a single game, right? Podesite Xyz, they jump up 12 placements, but kind of to your point as well, Minnie, Murstash and Tayson, they haven't found that identity, but after a single game, also jumping up 8 places.
Yeah, it's great to see from those guys. Of course, Xyz, Podesite doing a very good job as well, and we're seeing this development from this duo. I mean, it's one of those duos that maybe they've been switching up duo partners here, left, right, and center, but Podesite and Xyz, of course, the French guys, they know exactly how to play, and they're playing those low ground layers really well, using the elevation change so effectively as well, because everyone was just tumbling on top of them instead of them having to go up.
Every single time we've seen Podesite and Xyz in the end game, they've been front side of zone, and it's working out so well for them. I was thinking about it, I was like, man, like we keep seeing them in the end game. They're always so healthy. They keep themselves at the top of the leaderboard, and right after that performance, now 4th place. I really feel like they should be doing better, but I mean, they're just consistently finding themselves in the end game, which is what I'd love to see.
That is right. Well, gentlemen, guess what? I have a really fun surprise for you. We have an interview with someone from our community. It is none other than Reddish, who is joining us. Hi, Reddish. How's it going?
Hi, I'm vibing. I was just watching you guys.
Well, it's
How
great.
are you? How are you
doing
enjoying
amazing.
Denmark?
Oh, yeah, it's amazing here. Actually, can you hold on 1 second? The stage is not red enough for you being here. Any moment now. There you go. Okay, there we go. That's a nice little surprise for you. How's it going? How are you enjoying Chapter 4? How are you finding the meta?
I am actually having a lot of fun. But I'm having a lot of fun in all the chapters, all the seasons, because I'm obsessed with Fortnite. But when it comes to this season, there are a few things I really love. I love the red eye. My boomer eyes are very grateful that we still have a red dot AR in the game. That's definitely my favorite weapon in the game, so I'm happy we still have a red dot AR. And then what makes this chapter super special for me is definitely the addition of the augments. I think the augments have changed the game so much, and they're making it super fun because there's so many to choose from. You never know what you get. You're trying to look for gold everywhere to make sure you have enough to reroll, so I think that's super exciting. And then hammers in this meta, I know, very heated debate. I feel like for me, it's been a fun item. Of course, it makes the game a bit easier for players that are not as experienced, because even I can make it in super late game, right, to the final zones with a hammer. But at the same time, I remember I died to the hammer so many times. So it's just such a chaotic item, but for me as a creator, I'm having fun with it. I understand why the pro players don't vibe with it, but for me it's been fun. So this chapter has been fun for me, honestly. Comp-wise and content-wise, it's been a blast.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. You know, the big sentiment around Chapter 4 is, you know, oh, POIs, landmarks, split jobs. You settle the debate. What is your favorite job spot when it comes to Chapter 4?
Depends if for comp, because I play a bit of comp as well. I'm not the best, but I love comp. For comp, I have my tiny place. It's not a POI. It's a house at the south of the winter biome that has a lot of meta. Like, I'm stacked on mats and everything. If I'm not contested, I'm winning the game. So I'm landing there. But POI-wise, I'm vibing with a lot of them. I love Faulty. I love Frenzy. I think we have quite a few awesome places this season.
That is awesome. Well, Reddish, we appreciate you stopping by, getting to pick your brain a little bit. We can't wait to catch up with you a little bit later on, but thank you so much for your time. We'll catch you later.
See ya, guys. Have fun.
Reddish is absolutely amazing.
Legend.
Hey, do you like family-friendly content? Do you like someone who's really cool? And do you like the color red? Reddish is where you should be. There you go. You're welcome. My gosh, with 3 games left to go, any expectations? Anything we're hoping to see done differently?
3 down, 3 to go. Keep it up. Anybody that's doing well, maybe a little small adjustments from teams, not so much.
Yeah, Cammy said I want to see more from them. Tayson and Mustache doing the exact same. Hopefully they'll be able to pick up where they left off in that previous game, having a solid game, but let's see if they can get a win.
Adjustments. That is the name of the game right now. Which duos will rise? Which will fall? Let's find out. This is game number 4.
Game number 4, where the competition really starts to heat up. The best of the best players have been doing their thing. We have seen a big surprise in some of these games when it comes to who has been performing at the top level. We've seen some crazy pop-off moments from the likes of Albi and others who will continue to deliver.
Yeah, hopefully they got some gas in the tank, because we know the battle bus does. Game number 4 is ready. And for a lot of these teams, the second half, you have to be able to, in some cases, keep up that consistency. And others, light that fire underneath your behind, because now the going is really going to get tough. Everybody, depending on where you're at in the leaderboards, that is what is going to change the way you play. And for Snazy and Andalex, uncontested drop. From last week to this, they've already changed their game plan up, and it's been working out for them pretty well, making it to the end game. But just like some of these other teams, we've been talking about consistency is simply not enough. You have to be able to mix in. You have to be able to find those eliminations, because the meta has changed. It's more aggressive than we've seen in quite a while. As X-Squeeze, Podesai moving up the leaderboards, especially after that last game, tries to put down some cheeky early shots, but does not work out for them. Takes a bit of damage, forced to back down, but X-Squeeze is there to try to back him up. JJ2 is going to go down. X-Squeeze looking to clean it up, unless Glubshy can save the day.
And Glubshy is definitely capable of doing that. There are so many players here at the Bastion. It certainly is rather brutal right now, at least. For Podesai and X-Squeeze going to be looking to try and back-to-back. That would be ideal in their eyes.
Down goes Glubshy. Runs from one duo right into the hands of Grolls and Fire Hunter. And that's where you got to know if you're X-Squeeze and Podesai, seeing him go down, knowing that it didn't happen too far away. that they know, you know, he's gone. Can't get that one. You got to continue on, continue looting up. No reason to get greedy here in this situation. Is Kylie and Vico. We've seen the troubles from games 2 and 3 begin to set in and really change their performance, change the way they've looked at this game. But off spawn now, it does look like they're going to have a fighting chance, scaring away Tilted and Helix, ending up in between Tayson and Mustache. That's not a spot I would want to be at all.
Not at all. Up above, Voltiac's in a situation he doesn't want to be in. Very unfortunate. They're actually picking up Mighty Pelican. Hold on a minute. Things have changed their hand here a bit. What should have been the end of Mason and Voltiac might just be new life in this game, new blood, but no, hard find. You know, when you've got a strong controller player in your box like that, there's rarely going to be a chance for you to actually come out alive. But you saw that there, yeah, I'll be rolling up, and we know what they can do.
It's like the little NPCs that, you know, they get the little exclamation point over the head. That was Albie. He spotted that one in the disc. They said, uh-oh, somebody's nearby. Quickly tries to beeline, take advantage of anybody that might be weak, as Flickseek is going to clean that one up along with Cheatin'. Get themselves early surge, early elimination. Spotting a build fight break out right in front of them. They're licking their lips right now. Even more surge theirs for the taking. See a down go throughout the sky. And this game, Levin, compared to last, is getting rather ramped up quickly.
Yeah, a lot of action taking place rather early here. I told you, man, game 4, 5, 6, that's where things really start to get intense. You've seen already to start game 4. Just exactly how some of these players are looking to move now. But Albie and Ludwig, can they continue their reign of terror on the lobby? Can they continue to be the force they've been in these games? You'd love to see it for sure. There's always that possibility.
Almost in the double-digit elims per game. If they can keep up this pace, maybe tag on a few more on the tail end as Mustache and Tayson hearing that fight go down very early on. Closing in on the distance, trying to take advantage of any weak players in the distance. Mustache might feel like he knows Hardfind is down there. Solo separated from the rest of his team. Tayson trying to be hot on his heels as well. This is a 2v1. They want to close out rather quickly. But Hardfind going back into Kylie and Vico, sandwiched between two different duos. This is not a situation I would ever want to be in as Vico finds him slip and takes him out. But Mustache still closing in on the distance.
Mustache and Tayson. You know how scary they can be in this kind of situation. That's a tough prospect to handle.
Quickly just stealing that one away. Milad and Kyrie. It's actually just Kyrie versus Milad here. 1v1 situation, both of them losing their duos. Finding the scraps of the Shockwave Hammer. And this is where he definitely has a perfect decision. 2 different Shockwave Hammers. He can get out, get the reboot, and then spread the love, spread the joy between him and his teammates. Shockwave Hammer each, but that's only if he even has the reboot. Because you see 2 more teams closing on the distance as a 3rd and 4th party. Angry they didn't get their invite, so they're going to crash it nonetheless. This is just one of those situations where with both of these solos just prolonged in this situation, trying to find the reboot, using each other as a distraction. Milad is going to do just that. It does look like he's going to be the one escaping with his life.
The ideal situation for him, right? Being able to get out there, especially with so many teams. This fight definitely has the potential to get rather messy. You could argue already is messy. It's just how many players are here.
Super Eye and F-Binds, one of those teams that didn't necessarily land towards Lonely Labs, but hearing those shots in the distance, they close the gap, trying to take what they can get. And one of those things that they're trying to take away from Lonely Labs that you see a lot of teams do, they start to scavenge a lot of that metal that they might not necessarily get in their landing spot, whether it's a POI or a landmark. Seti and Cammy. The only duo to place top 10 in every single game today. They're the true kings of consistency. And then sticking true to the game plan that they wrote out eons ago. Find the eliminations late in the game where those opportunities will naturally present themselves. Honestly, they just need to continue doing what they're doing, and they're going to be off to the races.
Thomas and Malabuka. I'm interested to see whether or not they start to pick up the pace in these last couple of games. I think a lot of people will be hoping they can start to get there. I think there's probably no doubt that this team will eventually make it to the FNCS Grand Finals. The question will just be, can they get to their form of earlier this season?
You can see just that activity towards Brutal Bastion is almost like it's non-stop. Podesai squeeze. They got themselves that early game elimination. 2 other teams close by just trying to steal away the loot, prevent somebody else from getting that capture point. That's a lot of loot you're giving up to somebody else, and for Podesai and X-Squeeze, it's just about taking height and really trying to put pressure down on the lobby. And you can see them being very, very weary about everybody else in the distance, which is a good attribute to have.
To see Queasy and Vino still looking good. Of course, here in Game 4, we have a bit of a switch up on our side, Jacob. We now have the wonderful Vivid here to fill us in on some of the things we've missed. Vivid, what you got for us?
Guys, Game 3, aggression has been the name of the game for a lot of these duos. Already 72 players alive in the lobby. Now, that makes it tough for any duo that isn't as aggressive. Now, of course, Cammy and Seti, one of those duos. Every single time that they get is going to mean so much more. And Augments, of course, like Bush Warrior, going to help with that. We'll have to see how some of these non-aggressive duos fare in Game number 3.
Thank you, Vivid. Really answering my questions that I've had in my head. Without getting any eliminations till late in the game, Seti and Cammy, how are you getting your surge? What is your game plan? Seeing it all break down in front of us, giving me the missing puzzle pieces to that story, showing why they are one of the best teams to grace Fortnite, no matter the region.
I agree. I'm not going to disagree with you on that one.
I was waiting for you to say something because I was looking at you.
I agree.
I know you're a huge fan of Vino and Queasy. They have a good argument.
I'm a fan of great. I'm a fan of greatness.
Okay.
If you're great, I like you.
I can agree with that. That's probably why I like you as well. You're just great.
Thank you.
Has nothing to do with the height. This is going to be a great opportunity for somebody to really rise up the ranks, get the surge they were looking for, get a ton of loot that they might have not gotten at their POI. Helix and Tilt Turn are going to be on the low ground. Mappy stuck by himself, and you can see Moran and Paco looking like they're trying to close in on the distance, knocking out the doors. But it looks like just everybody in this situation as the zone continues to pull north. It's a little center, but it still continues to pull north. The longer you take in a situation like this, whether you're fighting or not, makes it that much harder to get into the zone because you're going on the most congested side while everybody else has already beaten you there.
An update here in terms of how Marius and Frednex are doing. Of course, they've been a team that's definitely impressed today. Maybe some would consider one of the more surprised teams in terms of their position in the standings. Chasing a mustache. No real surprises today in their play. Again, I'd like to see them have their game, right? You typically expect some of these top dogs to come through and eventually roll it and win a game. Chasing a mustache and the previous one, caught in the crossfire up above, weren't able to connect with their shots and were punished as a result of it. For Pink and Nebs, to see them doing as well as they're doing with some of the zones they've had to deal with today, I think is a big sign of the potential of this team. Haven't necessarily been the flashiest and most impressive, but they are here. They are fighting. If they do get a chance to show what they can do, I'd love to see them have one of their classic dominant height games maybe, or maybe something more humble down below in mid and low.
I like what Pink is doing, man. Just throwing some darts and landing them all around the map. Building that cushion when it comes to Storm Surge, making it less and less of a worry as the game does progress. As the Bull, Vexy have that same aspect of a cushion of 363 above the damage threshold. They're already almost going towards that center zone. Possibly just trying to build themselves a great spot to where when all these other teams begin to rotate in, when the next zone pulls and they end up possibly on the congested side, they don't have to worry about surge. They can just focus on that rotation, beating other teams in the chase as Karmi and Vaniac end up in another fight. 75 below the damage threshold. The choice isn't necessarily theirs. They have to take what they can get in this situation as Astral is getting pushed back. This is not what you want to be on here, but they're on the defensive end. They can quickly peek, try to take down Karmi's shield along with Vaniac, especially if they're separated.
dear.
In comes a new challenger.
Yeah. Out of nowhere almost. I'm sure that one surprised Kami a bit of a jump scare. But it's by no means the end of this horror movie. Still plenty more acts to go. He needs to regroup with Vanyak. If there's any hope for them, and that's exactly what they'll do. Hellfire does pose a threat. I think now that they realize it is just the one player, now they just have to go on the offensive, not without some punishment though from the rest of the lobby.
Gotta be careful though, because they were just fighting a team right below them. They could try to bounce back up and try to make them regret it as one goes down. Vanyak with just a sliver of HP. Hellfire!
Wow.
Along with Revscard, really cementing themselves here in this game. That's a confidence booster if I've ever seen one myself. And you can take a look at the map. All those other teams using that as a distraction to try to get into zone, but they're not going directly in towards the middle zone. They're trying to gatekeep this team out, but they don't know how dangerous they can be.
Hellfire was sitting there all alone and made quick work. An absolute nightmare there for Kami and Vanyak. And that will be the end of the horror story for them.
Wow.
All due to the good work of Hellfire. Very impressive stuff in a 2v1 right there.
Exactly what you want to do when they test you. You pass that test. You can see them leaving Achilles Plunder map behind. You got to think that buried treasure probably outside of zone, not worth their time for Flixie and cheating. But hey, if somebody else finds that and they're in shambles, one man's trash is another man's treasure, almost literally when it comes to Achilles Plunder. But 307 above, cheating and Flixie. They know that one team is right next to them. They're just getting themselves right at the edge of zone, so they don't have much to worry about. 288, Albi and Ludwig. One of the most dominant teams that we've seen on the day. First place, single game elimination record at 11 in game number 3. We see some records break yesterday, and they're looking to do it here again today as they get tagged up on the edge of zone, having to stabilize themselves in this position for now. But 261 above the damage threshold, there's at least that. They don't have to hunt for any of these shots.
Yeah, I've been mighty impressed with this team. A duo who by no means are considered the stars of the region, but very experienced players. Have had their fair share of successes in previous chapters, previous seasons. And maybe this will be the one where they really start to increase their rep and their respect within the region from some of the big dogs. Of course, Queasy and Vino have an abundance of that respect. They obviously started the day very hot and have been an ever-present force throughout it. But right now, things are looking very, very tough as Queasy takes a big chunk of damage. That's going to cause him some issues. It's going to leave a mark.
I like that. Take note about that right there. You saw Vino could have easily beeline. He could have got to the edge of zone. He could have got himself to safety, but he realized the strength in numbers. Queasy was just getting tagged up. He immediately backtracks to hold his teammates' walls. That's something that, you know, at the high level, it's common sense, but for anybody out there trying to take notes of little intricacies that our pro players do, that's something you definitely should jot down in your notebook. That strength in numbers. XP's and Podosai showed that early on in the game, able to 2v1 that early elimination. Snazy and Andalex showing what you can do with an uncontested drop. 121 below the damage threshold, though. The only downfall, really, of an uncontested drop is Andalex gets sent back to the lobby, having to watch his teammate perform. And 88 below the damage threshold, at least he can start giving out information, helping Snazy think outside of the box in terms of his typical game plan.
He needs to connect to something big here. Not quite doing that. 30 damage being all he takes, and so now just looking to take the game into his own hands, taking initiative, wants to break his way through. He's up against a duo, but he does not care. That's not going to stop him. He just needs to deal damage and fast, and unfortunately, the only person taking damage will be him. One problem is, though, he's starting to cause a domino effect that Flodax and Rifty are going to have to suffer from. They have now a bunch of players who are closer to the zone, at least, holding them in their current position, pressuring them so that they have to stay here. They do have mats, and so they can hold on, but again, it is just inconvenient, and Rifty going to have to use some shields as a result of it.
Yeah, about five singular players trying to focus on, grab that elimination. Mustache and Tayson, they already have 2 of their own. Just on the edge of zone, kind of where we've seen them last, so not too much of a rotate to finally get in, especially since they have that shockwave hammer. For them, they're just trying to gatekeep, add on to their already having surge totals. Refsguard's going to be by himself after a heroic save by Hellfire to stay alive, 1v2 situation. He was one of those teams putting focus in the lobby onto Flodax and Rifty. And for him, Shockwave Hammer, he can kind of pick and choose when he rotates, but he has to be very, very careful because if you rotate too soon, they're going to go ahead and target him right out of the sky.
Thomas Malabuka, how many times have you seen them looking like this? Thomas up above, looking at all the angles. Malabuka a bit further down below. Yeah, positioned well in the zone. I wonder whether or not they have that forecast augment. Maybe they start to pull that 5th zone. That would be very, very useful. Of course, knowledge of that 5th zone and where it is so valuable when forecasting and projecting how your end game is going to go.
And a little bit of change in pace we might see here towards this next end game. Instead of the massive differences in elevation changes, we just got an ice skating rink at the bottom. Not much to worry about. Some players can use that as a tool for their escape. Others might get a little frustrated if they don't expect it. As Queasy and Vino, you can see them kind of re-farm while one's holding that height, gathering the information. 858 above for Shimoki and Swizzy. They got themselves a good spot, but it's a little crowded on this left side. Depending on where this next one goes, could cause some utter chaos and destruction for half of the lobby.
Shimoki and Swizzy, a team that competed in Asia in previous years. Now here in EU, trying to make a big name for themselves on a bigger stage. They're not doing too bad of a job of that so far today. The zone pulling all the way though towards the northeast. They have a max distance to go. And so if there was ever a time to sort of show off what they can do, it would be now. Of course, the hammer will definitely help them. And maybe the ice will allow them to skid their way on into that zone once they get there, but you have to be very, very careful about how they proceed in the next couple of minutes. Refsguard all alone, even with all of Hellfire's heroics in the 2v1 earlier in this game. They are just left with the one player to fend for their spot in the leaderboard, currently at 20th.
See him just trying to top himself off before this next rotation. Going to the backside of zone, using the med mist to get himself there, Seti and Cammy. We saw their game plan very, very early on when it came to Surge. Even though they don't have 0 eliminations, they don't have very much to worry about. Short padding to the front side of zone. Very little distance to cover. But this is exactly what I'm talking about, slipping and sliding all over if you don't expect it. The cones are going to be a must in a situation like this. Fire Hunter flying high through the sky, doing so as a solo. Doesn't look like Rolls is anywhere nearby. Seti and Cam are just continuously not only gathering the information, but putting shots at anybody trying to box up close by so they know that it's not safe. You don't have that feeling of comfortability.
Rolls and Fire Hunter, they have a bone to pick with the lobby. They'll be very, very hopeful of their chances in this one. We saw Grows' game come to a tragic end last time round as he shockwaved himself right into another team's box and had no defense to answer with it. Now though, they sit in a better spot. Still not as fruitful as maybe they would want to be when it comes to their resources, but the chance is there. Bino and Queasy, another game where they get to play it as a duo. We know what they can do in those kind of situations. One of the top dogs right now in this lobby. You can expect Queasy is cooking up something devious to get them in through to that first zone.
I'm almost playing like a trivia mini game in my head as Ludwig lost Albi. And if he's gonna make history, have a top 3 finish in 3 straight games, he's gonna have to do it as a solo. He doesn't have Surge to worry about, 354 above. He has to worry about just getting into zone, bypassing a lot of this chaos, instantly gets towards the front side. Huge amount for him, and I was thinking play a trivia game, when is Queasy and Vino gonna take height, but I think now's the time. 6 moving zone, that's their cue. Refsguard's gonna have to follow suit. We talked about him being a solo, running out of resources, running out of builds. The inevitable is bound to happen. He has to look for a refresh.
Yeah, Refsguard in dire straits right now. A big shot would be all he needs to sort of keep himself in this one. And the opportunities will be there. There's a play right in his box that he can't answer for. That's a find. That's gonna take him out, Ludwig, in a very similar spot. But he does just need anything to keep him in this one. Of course, the hammer will allow him to survive a bit longer, but you can see who holds the keys to height It's going to be Vino. It's going to be Queasy. Once again, we see them in this position. Last time we saw them here, they won a game, Jacob. They might be looking to do it again.
6 moving zone. For some, they think it's a gamble. For them, it's definitely calculated. Shimoki and Swizzy trying to get towards the front side yet again. Holding on to the front side, even if you don't have height, is going to be important. Beating all these teams there. Being able to look back. Thomas, Malibuca trying to follow suit. Gets coned for a second, but not too much to worry about. Immediately breaks through, but Thomas right now is separated from Malibuca. This could come tumbling down, just like Swizzy. All that chaos going around. Instantly trying to shockwave out. The longer you stay in those chaotic situations, the harder it's going to be to stay alive.
Yeah, they need to find some space to breathe. A breath of fresh air in this region so far this season, but they need a breath of fresh air in this game. Ludwig, even alone, still wreaking havoc on the lobby. And those extra materials will go a long way. They're going to work wonders. A chance to hammer up above. And you can see here, for Robot, no duo with him, but still a big, big force to be reckoned with. And no, Vino, he's now being knocked into the storm and looking to knock himself back into the zone. But he doesn't have Queasy with him anymore. And so all of a sudden, we need to see Queasy and Vino try their best in this one. It's all going to be in Vino's hands, though.
Just like Swizzy following suit, a lot of these teams losing their duo, left as a solo. And he quickly reacts to that one, shockwaving into a better position. Tayson and Mustache, they steal away high ground, thanks to the downfall of Queasy and Vino. But Vino's trying to stay alive. Consistency is key for a team like him, especially the way they started the day. But it's about maneuvering through, recycling a lot of the bills along with Ludwig. This is going to be a huge opportunity for him to hold on to that first place, even though Albi went down quite early.
Ludwig is no stranger to this moment. Has to hit something big. Looking, searching, waiting for his opportunity to strike. Is it going to come? Nebinator and Pink, though, they might stand in his way. And they will. Slowbait being the one to take Ludwig out. Neb and Pink, though, in the back of the zone. Needs to try to get in. But when they do, they're going to have Vino waiting for them here. You see him lining up the shot. He's already picked up one, and he's looking for more.
Huge find out of that tactical assault rifle. Thunder shotgun as well. A great recipe for success for a solo trying to get through boxes here towards the end game. Thomas, they turn towards the low ground along with Malibuca, trying to break through the bills. A lot of chaos is ensuing. They're under pressure, getting denied entry to the zone, but the zero chance augment playing a huge role for him to dash his way in.
Thomas is unleashing on the lobby right now. He's already picked up 3, but now with so little, can he continue to hit more? He might be exposed to height. No, he'll just go down to the storm, hammers himself way on out of it. And Malibuca now left to his own devices. What can he do?
And in comes the challengers. As Neb and Pink are on the low ground, they're trying to end these solos runs. Down goes Delay. Neb and Pink trying to do what they can, holding that ultimate low ground, running out of builds. Down goes Pink as well. Malibuca's a solo, trying to make some magic happen, shockwaving as high as he can go, dropping right back down low, knowing resources are not there to back up the situation. He's the only solo left in the game. 1v2, Malibuca versus Thomas. It's gonna be huge. Shockwaving, everything going around. Tayson goes up and over. They get the angle towards the front side, and they shoot him down from the sky. Malibuca tried everything that he had, but it wasn't enough to overcome the numbers of the superstars of EU.
Tayson and Mustache, I said it earlier in this game, that eventually they're going to roll up and pick up a victory royale. Little did I know it would be here in Game 4 that they do it. And a bit of sweet revenge there for Tayson and Mustache as they pick up Malibuca. Of course, when it comes to trio competitions, that's actually their teammate that they take down. But nevertheless, no friends in the industry, no friends in this game. They win it out. Victory royale, brilliantly done as well, up from above.
And the Titans have reclaimed the throne, the top spot. They said enough talk about these underdogs. We're here and we're here to stay. But where do they stand on the leaderboard after such a massive game?
Look at that.
Was that 10 eliminations to seal the deal with the victory royale?
Big shot there onto Malibuca at the end. Tayson and Mustache win Game 4. I love it. I'm a fan. Everybody, if you know me, you know how much I like to see Tayson do well, so I'm going to keep my mouth quiet before people call me biased. I'm very impressed, though. A big, big victory royale.
Yeah, but being impressed only means so much. You need to have that leaderboard placement to back it up, and only the analysts can break down where everybody stands.
You know, first off, before we get into anything, let me welcome our analyst for the second set of games. That's right, it's the best taco. It's Jenny Smiles. I feel like EU has been the story of like solos. It just seems like every time we look at a duo, it's always like someone's missing. They're left to fight on their own. Are you guys feeling like that's kind of what's happening here?
It's a little bit expected with how haphazard I think that the Shockwave Hammer has really just resulted in a lot of these individual scenarios coming to fruition. But on that same note, despite the fact that we're seeing so many solos from these duo pairings, we're still watching numerous clutch situations take place.
Yeah, like you just said too, those clutches are so important too. If you're a solo in endgame, you're just thinking, I don't really care as much about eliminations. I just need to have a good placement there. So it's just so important to make sure that they can be aware of their surroundings and make very vital movements and get that placement.
And I think as far as Thomas, HD, and Malibuco were concerned here, they got caught up in a lot of this congestion in the low ground because of the control that we saw from Tayson and Mustache up on the height layer. Unfortunately, Thomas and Malibuco, they were just too busy trying to maneuver their way. And the worst part about playing on this low ground in the late game scenario is that you don't know which build is actually going to have somebody hiding behind it. And ultimately for Thomas, a bit unfortunate there at the end with that Shockwave out into the zone, but ultimately still a great performance, I think, from those two.
That hammer is it's so good, but it is also so back and forth sometimes. Like when you hit it, you're like, am I gonna go completely out of the storm? Was it the perfect hit? So it was so back and forth. And that was, it was just an unfortunate little event right there.
That's right. Now we turn our attentions here to the standings. We got to see how things are shaking out. Remember, we only have 2 games left to go here in week number 2. Albie and Ludwig still sitting pretty comfortable, right? Sitting at the top. But Mustache, Tayson, they have something to say about that.
And matching points right there, you can see it. It's definitely looking so good, up 3 points. And again, I just think you'll see Tayson and Mustache continuously do so well and thrive in game this week. It's gonna be great.
Obviously, yeah, placement points are definitely important, but as far as Mustache and Tayson are concerned, when they were able to overtake that height layer, initially we saw Queasy and Vino up at the start of the first moving zone. That was 6th zone, but Tayson, Mustache, as soon as they were able to control this high ground, again, there's just so much congestion actually taking place on a lot of these low layers. No one really had an opportunity to actually look up and do anything about these two controlling height. Even when they ran relatively low on builds, we saw Tayson there at the end with only 1, but again, when you have everybody trapped underneath, you're able to easily sandwich them, and I think that that was just the performance that you kind of expect from such an experienced duo.
That's right. We keep turning our attention. I mean, look at all of this. This is shifted up and down, and these little placement markers are still helpful, right? To just tell us how many placements people are moving up and down these standings. Now, with only 2 games left to go, I'm looking at people like Seti and Cammy, right? Duos I would have expected to just be sitting somewhere in your top 3, but they're actually getting forced down. EU is extremely chaotic here in week number 2.
Yeah, so again, like you said, that was where my eyes were set too, but they're playing so consistent. That's what's really important. You see, like, they're making the moves, they're making plays that are very smart and tactical, and that's where you're gonna see they're gonna make sure that they're in top 10. But then you also see you have your standings for 11 through 20, and those teams are gonna be saying, all right, I want to get to that top 10. How can I make that happen? So it's gonna be slight adjustments. Again, you can see some of these teams up 10 plus points. So that will just continuously go up.
I think part of the reason why we're seeing duos like Seti and Cammy, who are notorious for being such consistent performance, struggle here is because of the fact that the Shockwave Hammer, again, it's such a volatile meta that we're not really seeing consistency in terms of placement be the real reigning factor here. It's actually those individual pop-off performances. And what I mean, like, duos having their individual standout games, because Alvi Ludwig, I think, are a perfect example. I mean, they've got 28 elims, and I think are a huge part of the reason why they find themselves first as far as in-game points and placement points are concerned. But again, we're seeing other duos also rise to the occasion, and Pink and Nebs are one that definitely come to mind.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think that they're performing so well, and like you said, just making sure that you're taking care of Surge in the beginning of games, making sure that you can have smart rotations end game is just going to set you up for such success. And again, holding on to like the weapons that are going to get you through those builds, get quick little eliminations, those extra points all matter so much.
Yeah, and I think, the talk of EU is going to continue to be adaptability, right? These duos that are shifting, making those adjustments they need to, are going to be moving up the standings, and there's only 2 games left to go. We actually got a sneak peek there. 20th place, Firehunter and Grolls. We looked at those series point leaderboards coming into today, and they were on the bubble, and now they're thinking, with only this week, 2 games left, next week, 6 games there, we have to perform well if we want to make it.
Hey, we're past the halfway point, so it's time to see who can finish strong.
That's right. Well, hey, I know what y'all want. Y'all want games. All right, let's get into it then. We ain't got to wait much longer with 2 games left to go. Who's going to make it in that top 10? This is game number 5.
Game number 5, the penultimate game. One of the last chances these duos will have today to make their mark, to stake their claim, gain some series points and make it to the FNCS final.
Yeah, and for some, it's a crucial moment in their journey because Zeke talked about it. Being on the bubble going into that final week is not a position any team really wants to see themselves because that's not a feeling of comfortability. You're really going to have to dig deep into your pockets. And with game number 5 ready, the time is now.
The players have got to dig deep into their bags and whip out an absolute masterclass. The time is now, all the eyes are watching. Who will it be? Of course, to start off any game, the most important thing is always these battles off spawn. Northwest all the way to the southeast is where the bus will go. We've seen a similar bus path already today, so one thing that we can guarantee is that there will be a fight here at Breakwater Bay where Vortexes is ready and waiting with a shotgun. And it doesn't seem like Pixie has much to fight with at all. Does have a pistol, but it's no match for what Vortexes is carrying. And so they already have the advantage. Delay now is going to have to pull up something special in a 1v2 here. They're trying to use the Falcon Scout just to figure out where he is. And even though it doesn't spot him, at least they know now that he is probably on the other side of Breakwater. Over at Slappy though, Jacob.
Yep. Slappy, Kylie, and Vico are out for revenge, and already it's looking to be a little bit fruitful. They get that first elimination on the tilter and leaving Helix by himself, but Kylie goes down, so it's definitely down to a 1v1. Vico versus Helix. On the other side of Slappy, they're just looting up, waiting for them to kind of clean up the scrambles of this one. But 1v1, Helix now knocking at the door. The piece control is not his, so he has to be very, very careful. Playing mind game of sorts to figure out, is he going to break through? Is he going to wait for the peak? Resources are not there, and they end up box to box, toe to toe, and it's Vico who comes out on top.
Vico in close quarter combat is always going to be someone you expect to come out on top. The German is so prolific in those kind of fights.
Immediately just leaves. He knows the threat looming towards North Slapping. There goes Vico's first elimination. With the machine SMG, finding a Maven elsewhere. I like the attempt. I like the aggression coming out from Helix, especially with how their day has been going. Hats off to him, though.
And back to Breakwater Bay, where we already saw Pixie get picked up. I don't think he knows. I don't think he knows Delay is right there behind that tree. He doesn't. And Delay, very patient, but unfortunately does get spotted out, and so that will be the end of him.
I love the patience right there. We can try to turn it around, but now Axe Force, Vortexers, they get themselves a Shockwave Hammer. They got themselves early game Surge. A great setup for success is Podesai and an X Squeeze. They didn't find that early game elimination, but they did push that team off. Making sure that all that loot is theirs, and you keep it kind of splitting up, spreading out, making sure they get as much as they can from Brutal Bastion before they find themselves outward. Groles and Fire Hunter probably doing the same on that side as Murstache and Tayson rotating. It looks like they're actually looking for Vico here. They know that fight did go down. They saw the eliminations pop up in the feed. They're just trying to figure out where in the world is Vico.
That's what we're all wondering, right? Where in the world is Vico? And will he be able to survive against a team that has the hot hand right now? Coming off of that victory royale, I'm sure they'll be looking for more. Whether or not they do, though, they've definitely already solidified a spot high up in the standings. So that allows them to just sort of play freely, a bit more loose, not as tense as maybe they would have been a couple games ago.
Don't really know what Fred Nex was thinking, going up and over. But when you have the confidence, when you have the hot hand, can't really bet against you. As Marius now, just trying to think of what am I going to do? How am I going to get him back? We asked the question of where is Vico? Well, found him sitting in the bush, just waiting, biding for time. And you can already see through his mini-map, the zone pulling a little bit to his north, a little bit towards his west. So that's a little bit of a great sign for him, knowing that Tayson and Murstache, the contested players on the other side, are eventually going to have to rotate in that direction, which will allow him to possibly get that reboot and the card back on up, getting his teammate back into the game.
Albi and Ludwig. Still the team to beat right now. And for good reason. Their play has been very impressive today.
Averaging just under 9 eliminations through the first 3 games. Only picking up 2 in that last game. Trying to play more consistent over everything else. They've got the points throughout their first 3 games to really allow them to switch up their play style, be a little bit more flexible in the moves that they want to make, along with Seti and Cammy here. Slow to start the day in terms of eliminations, but they ramp it up as the day goes on as Charlie and Gitter has returned to the scene of the crime. Mara's trying to go for the reboot, and that's going to be a mistake he's going to regret here in the 5th game. They go back to the lobby, and they have plenty of time to think before that 6th and final game starts.
Yeah, they made quick work of that. Both attacking from different sides. You don't know where to look. And then they strike rather cleanly. Vico, though, still waiting in this bush. And the coast is definitely not clear because there are players in this vicinity that he has to sort of wait out. We'll be hoping that nobody wants to check this bush.
Could be a possibility later on in the game. The time is definitely ticking for him. The fall from grace from Vino and Queasy. Starting the game off hot in first place. Slowly but surely slipping down, but that's not too much to worry about. At least for me, these guys are experts. They know how to turn it on at a moment's notice as Vico finally gets spotted out. And now going gets tough, 1v2 situation, not a ton of resources to work with. Trying to use that bush to his main advantage there on the low ground. And you can see his opponents trying to hold on to the position up high. Zangi and Zara bouncing around, taking multiple angles, closing in on Vico. And you can see them passing around the Shockwave Hammer. And you got to imagine they're just trying to break through the builds, use their numbers here to their advantage.
On the offensive. Playing it incredibly aggressive, trying to just control space, control pieces. And that's not going to play to Vico's favor. Needs to put on his best defensive fighting performance we've seen in a while. Trading shots there isn't too bad, but ultimately will be overwhelmed.
Unfortunate for him. He goes down. Back to the lobby. The off-spawn fights really almost proving not to be worth for them. Obviously, Vino and Queasy getting busy, trying to take advantage of an early game fight as Chadas and Giris. They were the ones that kind of took down that solo. I was going to say, are they going to chase him? But my answer, or my question was quickly answered there. Not letting any points slip through their hands.
Even though they're not in first, I will always continue to call these guys the lobby bosses. They just roll up and things never seem to go well for whoever it is they are aggressing.
That's the thing, though. As long as they're within reach, they're always a threat to the rest of the lobby. About, 100 points, give or take. Not exact, but give or take. So these last 2 games mean so much for them and trying to boost up the leaderboards. Just Tayson and Mustache finding that team on the outskirts of Slappy. They're trying to get it aggressive while they can, while no other teams are looming in the distance, threatening to third parties. Zangi's the one that's under the most pressure from Tayson. Mustache is going to go fly on the other side, takes a few tags himself. It does look like they're going to attempt to disengage, but only long enough for them to try to gatekeep and hold this team out.
We have Vivid once again here to give us an update on some of the things we've missed. Vivid, what's been going on?
Albi has been building a giant Storm Surge base to make sure he and his duo are ready to take on the end game. But I also want to talk about the impact that this can actually have on the lobby. If you take a look at the map, they're going to be building this on the south side of this northern pooling zone. Any of these teams that are to the south are going to have to completely avoid this base and either go to the east or the west. So we'll have to see how that impacts lobby and where the aggression comes in.
And that's been part of the keys of them being successful in these games. And by doing that, by building up that base and almost deterring those teams, they're almost creating their own dead side, right? Making it so that the area is less congested and makes their rotation towards that second zone all the more easier as they move on through. For Pink and Neb, here, they have a long, long ways to go. The zone pulls all the way towards the northwest. And so a max distance zone Not necessarily max distance for tasting the mustache, but still quite a ways to go.
If they just have Surge to back up this rotation, it's a great ingredient for the recipe for success. You see Bridal and CZB end up in a box-to-box fight. One's gonna go down. 2v1 situation. A shockwave hammers directly into the box, and honestly, these are those situations. You're outside of zone. You're really thinking you have an isolated fight. You try to take advantage. It just doesn't go your way, and then you have Bridal Squash, who gets both of those eliminations, and really nothing to worry about from him from this point, probably to the mid game. They don't have to worry about Surge. They just got to focus on their rotation.
That's a dream scenario. Cammy and Seti, they've been looking really good this tournament. Even with some of the underperformances leading up to the FNCS Major, many of the pundits in the scene always said, look, regardless of how they perform in tournaments leading up to it, when it comes to the actual Major, these two will always step up. And I think that definitely has reigned true. They'll continue to impress, continue to make it deep into games, and maybe pick up a couple big victory royales along the way. They certainly did in week 1. They'll look to do the same here in week 2. For more action here at Brutal Bastion. Fire Hunter and Grows in the thick of it.
Looks like Fire Hunter might even be saving an augment. He didn't activate it. You saw him pull it out, look at his options, and saving it for later in the game. Almost leaves me wondering the options he could have. Probably a forecast, jelly angler, something that he's waiting to use later on the game to where it's actually useful. It's him and Grows are towards the low ground, biding time, cheating and Flixie, probably waiting for them to get impatient, drop into their box, and probably use that as an advantage in this fight, as Flixie's just trying to take the pieces away from above. A little bit of a slow fight, though. I don't think any one of these teams really want to make that daring play. Everything that they have in their 5th game, knowing that there's only 2 more chances here to pick up the pace and get as many points as you can.
Flixie and cheating, they start to make their move. And if they can get ahead of these teams rotating in, they'll just be able to sit there and hold them, cause issues for them, make their lives difficult as they rotate through. And that's exactly what they'll want to do. It would be the right play. Thomas and Malabuka still needs to deal some damage for Surge. But that is what you want out of Thomas HD. Sitting in positions like this, hitting shots, he definitely is no stranger to it.
An anomaly of a performance last week for Thomas and Malabuka. Definitely have woken up, playing more like themselves this time around. Shimoki and Swizzy tagging up a player. 62 shields ripped right off, helping their case when it comes to Storm Surge. They still got some more traveling to do, so you got to be careful not to overstep, not get too antsy, especially with another team looming in the distance. If you don't watch out, you don't be careful, you might force them into a fight, and you can just be the team really just taking advantage of the situation. As the shots continue to fire off from Swizzy, forcing these players closer and closer together. And I think the deed has been done. 197 below the damage threshold. They forced them close enough to where Cosmo and Jay are now getting into the box. 125 shields, followed up a 30 wide HP, just getting drained off of him in the blink of an eye. Excalibur rifle trying to get stuck in there. Any damage is better than none. Forcing out the splashes, the instant heals, which is going to be important for this fight. And you can see them still below on the Storm Surge. 21 to be exact, which isn't much, but as they continue to fall, it's now ticking, doing damage. So they got to close in and finish this fight sooner rather than later.
Yeah, just taking a moment to use some chug splashes. They want to get right in. Of course, they're down with Surge, but they are hitting some shots when the opportunity arises. But they do need to get in, and hopefully fast. Need to start dealing damage. Can they break their way through?
And right now, their opponents don't even know they're getting tagged up by Surge until the shields get cracked. And there you go. There goes the signal. Jay's trying to back up. Down goes Cosmo. Down goes Jay. They're unable to survive. While CZB and Bridal Squash get both of those eliminations. Really proving that they are here to stay along with Albi and Ludwig. 281 points for them. It's all about making it past that mid game, entering towards the end game. That's where they fell short in that last one, and they're not looking to have that repeat happen.
Ludwig and Albi. We saw how far of a zone they had to traverse. You can see them crowded around a couple different teams. That leads to success. Wow, cheating. Big shot there.
Hyrax went down to the zone directly after. Splixie and Chieftain keep their show on the road. They know they have some rotations to do. See one massive tower in the sky. Instead of risking it going up or mountain, contesting them, they're just immediately trying to find that safe passage through. And for Albi and Ludwig, it's about taking that static launch pad. Once again, using environmental cover to their advantage, but only so much. As Albi goes through unscathed, Ludwig taking a lot of the damage, dropped down to 7 HP, trying to go deep as he can, trying to regenerate health, and you see Albi stopping short to try to relieve some of that pressure. A huge amount of teamwork, and those unspoken acts between two players that take time to develop, but a team this new are wasting no time building that chemistry. Uh-oh.
Thomas in a sticky situation. Malabuka has fallen, so it's all up to him. Not how they would have wanted things to go, but nevertheless, he has to play the cards he's been dealt. Quite a journey to make it into zone, but the hammer will speed that up tenfold. The question is, when he gets into zone, how is he able to play things out? It's going to be difficult as a solo from this point in the game. The Buell now in a fight against Queasy and Veno. Don't think I'd envy anybody in that situation. And with his teammate Vexy already down, he has to come up big if there's any hope of him getting anything out of this game. If I was him, I'd just disengage completely. Look to try to play as a solo. Let them have Vexy's body, because that's ultimately what they want, more so than even picking up his limb. If they could pick him up, that would be an added bonus, but the body will suffice.
They're center zone right now. They do have some time to work with before everybody else in the lobby begins to make their own journey in. One other team, a little bit north, but they're preoccupied as well, trying to get some extra loot. A launch pad they could possibly use for the half-half, moving zones depending on what comes their way. Everybody else now, you can see in the minimap, beginning to shockwave in, closing in on the distance. You don't want to be the last one there, especially in these north zones where the elevations are just so drastically different from one another.
Looking at Thomas. Down to almost nothing here in this game. A one splash will get him up a bit, but no builds, no materials, no teammate. And as good of a player as he is, even some things may be too difficult for the mighty Thomas HD. Looking to get into a box, if he's able to pick this limb up, it would solidify why he's considered one of the best in the world. Unfortunately, Rifty had all the answers. He was ready and waiting. Tasting a mustache, they're still in this one. A potential back-to-back victory royale for them.
Uh-oh.
We're yet to see it today.
They're down on Surge. Not something I would expect to see at this stage in the game for a team of this caliber. Only 98 below, though. Not too much to worry about. Tagging up a player just a little bit, knowing their job is not done just yet. Nev trying to stay alive. Pink under pressure. He's trying to hold the walls, and Mustache is this far low, this far separated from the rest of the lobby. This is the best chance they're going to get to gather the Surge in a safe manner. Box to box, wall to wall, 117. Huge tag, edits through. Down goes Pink. It's all up to Nevs here, as Mustache doing a good job of holding onto the walls. Tayson with the additional angle, going to take down Nev as well. The full duo gone and eliminated back to the lobby.
That's two of our top teams there, going head-to-head. That's 2 out of the top 3 from last game, right? Nebs obviously carried his team to third in that one, so again, big hitters fighting it out.
Down goes Seti as well. Cammy's stuck being the hero. He hasn't been eliminated just yet, so anything can happen, along with Savage and Eye Drop.
There he goes.
Progressively getting better each and every single week, and it did look like Seti got taken down. Cammy just trying to outlast this pressure right now, building up. Shockwave Hammer even recycling some of these builds, but they're finding him. There's nowhere he can go. They're not letting him escape. But the reload is all it's going to take. They're just probably trying to time it right. You see them on the other side of that cover. Bridal Squad and CZB. If they know he's there, if they know he's a solo, you know as well as I do, they're going to go. Especially this separated outside of the zone.
And what a zone we do have here. Another potential game for Albi and Ludwig to increase their lead. How dominant have they been today? A Mythic Pistol coming in clutch. Still need to deal a fair bit of damage. They want to have some peace of mind in this game. But again, with that Mythic Pistol, it's not going to be impossible. Looking to try to use those old builds there. When Zone starts to pull towards it a bit more, they can use that impulse grenade just to get up there. Snazy and Andalex down below. And still knocking on the door of the top 10. If there was ever a time to start pushing their way on in, it would be these last 2 games.
Oh. On the other wall, piece control going on over. Edits in. Tries to go for the shot. Not going to find any success there. It's almost as if they can smell how weak CZB actually is. Probably under 10 HP. Living on a prayer. Hoping that his teammate stays in his box so they can't break through. Swizzy on the other side along with Shimoki. Everybody really jam-packed this close like a can of sardines. One mistake, one bad play can really cost you everything. It does look like that lone solo is just going to bounce through and get out alive. Doesn't know the pressure he just escaped getting out when he did.
Vino and Queasy, a big chance for them in this game to start to close the gap, push their way up in the standings just that bit more. Of course, they started off today in first place, and it's been a while since they've been able to hold that title. As Dash and Tayson, they're looking to close the gap between them and first place. One of the few teams that could do it in this game potentially. If Albi another big word to fall, but they have to have a big game themselves. You see Albi all the way up there on height, still towards the backside, just to pick people off who maybe are caught sleeping. And then anybody who wants to take height is gonna have to deal with them, and it might be that first place team. Albi and Ludwig, they look for it for a moment, but it's Queasy and Vino up here who will say, no, 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 you stay down below. They are the current holders of height. Cammy, again, still as a solo, and he has to have a big game.
Whew. Takes a big tag, added on top of that, 83 HP. Trying to get to the front side of zone, moment to stabilize, pop those minis, getting himself back up to tip-top shape. Barely above the damage threshold, so he's just looking to outlast a lot of the opponents that might go down to Surge. Flixie cheating under pressure. Cheating's gonna go down. Flixie trying to get out, going towards the backside of zone, but the icy floor slipping around. Flixie trying to minimize the movements, edit through, takes a cheeky shot on the Ludwig. Albi, but it's not gonna be enough. Switches on over to Shockwave Hammer, trying to get above elevation while he has time on his side.
Ludwig and Albi, they are starting to cook up. We know what they can do. They've been showing off all day long. The zone is starting to move up this hill, so you're seeing players being proactive, taking the initiative to start moving upwards early. If you're the likes of Flixie, no, you can't quite, but that was a big shot there from a distance. Making use of that shotgun range, nevertheless he falls. Cammy still in this one though, even as a solo, he's making things happen, he's making things work, and he's gonna keep on moving. Needs to be careful though, bounces himself out. That Shockwave Hammer can be hard to tame, but finally making his way in.
Barely living on a prayer right here, letting these players that are near him shockwave to the front side of zone. He knows he got some more traveling to do. Almost takes the damage to Storm. Right on the edge of that one. Shimoki and Swizzy, 5 eliminations as well. Have the Shockwave Hammer. They're trying to optimize the amount of uses they actually get out of the charge, using teamwork to make the dream work, immediately trying to run and get to that front side of zone, but they're running out of resources, they're running out of builds, they need to look back, and that's exactly why they're spotting out X-Squeeze and Podesai, trying to put the pressure there, but not taking too much time. They know the journey is to the center is not done just yet.
Vino and Queasy though, still cooking up a meal. They are here to feast on the rest of the lobby. Up above, in the sky so high, players down beneath them need to beware, because if Vino starts dropping down, there's no reason to not be scared. This is one of the best fraggers we've ever seen. Ardy down below, trying to make something happen. And what he'll do is he'll move to the front, where he can stay a bit more quiet, a bit more inconspicuous. He doesn't look too out of place. Shimoki and Swizzy, they'll start to make their way there now as well. But they're waiting for someone like a Rescard to just walk into their box so they can capitalize, and that's exactly what they'll do. They pick him up, and Hellfire is gonna look to follow his tracks, maybe get some revenge if he can. Needs to be careful, and options to just use the hammer to get us to safety.
Oh, but he's bouncing all around the mountain. Down goes Hellfire. Into the top 7 we go, though. Shimoki and Swizzy trying to steal away the high ground as the zone moves down elevation. They know they don't have plenty of builds to work with, so they have to go and scavenge for everything that they can. 5 builds. And you can see Swizzy just trying to pass everything over, using this moment right now. Does he get the res off? That's the question we're going to be asking ourselves as Albie somehow, some way, as a solo, is finding himself towards this end game, spotting down low, doesn't get the shot on Shimoki, and it backfires. He takes him down in the end.
But he's done more than enough in this game. Just staying alive that long is exactly what they needed. And Squeeze and Podesite, they maybe won another victory royale. They've already won one today. They've shown they can do it. And they're up against a team who has done it today as well. Both of these teams looking to pick up their second victory of the day. Paco is the only thing stopping them, and he will eventually be dealt with. And so now in the final 2v2, who will pick up victory royale number 2 of the day? Queasy and Venom in top form so far in this game, using height to their advantage, but the shockwave hammer comes out, and the final shots have to be connected, and they're doing a brilliant job, and they will pick it up. Vino, Queasy, pick up another one.
Throughout all that madness and chaos, shockwave hammers causing all that destruction, they kept their eye on the prize, only dropping down low when needed, and to seal the deal. The consistency is real, and the domination over EU is coming to fruition for Queasy and Vino.
In the words of Vino himself, zone equals win. When it's anywhere near this north side of the map, you've always got to think that they're going to be a big threat. Look at this here. Brilliant stuff from Vino at the end. That's exactly what you love to see him doing. I'm impressed. Queasy and Lavino looking good.
Yeah, and a lot of our top teams in general really making it towards that end game. I saw Albie slithering himself in there. Yeah. But the question is, who got first? With so many of our top contenders making it to the end game, finding plenty of eliminations, I don't even know what to expect at this point.
Hey, look, I know who knows what to expect.
Who knows?
I know who knows. It's going to be the analyst. Zeke, take it away.
Thank you guys so much. Only a single game left to go. I don't know what, I'm telling you, every time we're here, I just blink and the games are just gone, which makes me really sad because I just want to hang out more and watch more Fortnite. But Queasy, Vino, a huge game. Who knew? They just needed to both be alive.
It basically was a Cinderella story from start to finish for Queasy and Vino, because this zone alone, the way that it pulled so far north, practically in their own backyard from their initial drop spot, so it gave them ample opportunity, ample time to just collect resources, have max mats. I believe by the time it even entered that first moving zone, they already had established a relatively large area as far as what they were building out, make sure to box out. And we also saw Vino take an ample opportunity to kind of monitor that low ground, make sure nobody was coming in and out. And the same thing for Queasy, where he kept coverage on the ground above.
Yeah, and again, too, this being so close to where they drop is so great because, like you said, like they don't have to travel far, they don't have to use the resources, they don't have to use their mats, none of that. And again, too, you get to see, you know, they're not gonna have to take fights where they end up as a solo. They got to be together as a duo this end game, and them together, again, we just said they're just a powerhouse. I mean, it's such an amazing duo. I was like, before they even won, I was like, they got this in the bag. So they get that win, and it's just amazing.
I mean, they're very good at setting the tempo of any match that they're in, right? They're a lot. Everyone else is like, yeah, we're playing Fortnite. Like, yeah, go left. And they go left. And you're like, all right, well, we won the game already. We take a look here at the standings. Remember, we're playing for a total of series points here at the end of the 3 weeks right now. All these duos looking to place as high as possible. Albie, Ludwig, I guess they're just going to stay here all the way throughout the rest of the day. They've been holding on strong. But as we start to kind of look down the list, look at all the changes of Queasy and Vino finally with that game of Victory Royale. And it's kind of like interesting to think that after 2 games of like solo play, they just needed that one game, and now they're back up in the top 3.
It seems as though the circumstances have been switched, though, for Albie and Ludwig, because we have actually seen them for not only this match, but the past one as well, where they've been put into these individual circumstances. And it's never easy when you lose your duo, especially once you start getting into that moving zone territory. But at the same time, I think that what we witnessed the most from Albie and Ludwig was just a lot of discipline. They weren't looking to really rush into uncharted territory. And what I mean by that is that they knew that they were going to have to try and play out the low ground as soon as they lost their duo mate. And I think it's just really crucial to keep that accountability, keep your senses strong, and not basically lose track of where everybody else is in the lobby.
Yeah, just like you said, that making sure that you're aware and having that placement, like they're not going to put themselves in a bad position being a solo, and they did that so well. You can see too, I feel like a lot of times in EU, like we saw a lot in NA, but like EU, now I'm seeing like there's a lot of solo plays that they're learning, okay, I want to play this out well if I want to have a good placement at the end, you know?
That's right. Taking a look again, Seti and Cammy, they continue to fall down the leaderboards. Even people like Pink and Nebs, right? there's a lot of these high-profile duos in EU that we're kind of like used to seeing in the FNCS, but they just, something's not clicking, right? What do you guys think is happening?
Partially, I think, due to the fact that we have seen a decent amount of the zones pulling a little bit towards that fourth and third section, and because there are duos like Squeezy and Vito, like Podesai and Squeezy, that have control coming in from that south. Well, for Podesai and Squeezy, they're south of Brutal Bastion, but it's still difficult, I think, for duos like Seti and Cammy to make those rotations upwards from their initial drop spot, because you have to deal with such experienced duos that it makes it very difficult to actually sneak by without losing a lot of resources and having to expend a lot of your shields.
Yeah, and like you said, having some of these teams building up and having just like a castle of their own, and they're like, you're not coming this way, I'm taking over this entire area. You have to expend so many mats if you're gonna make those like rotations and such, so it's just crazy. And again, too, look here, we see this mythic pistol being used. I just want to point that out again because it's so new into like coming in. We saw so many of the SMG being used, but the pistol is just so amazing. The SMG, again, is still being used, but that pistol is crazy, is not, Taco?
No, it definitely is. And I think for Podesai and Squeezy specifically, because of the fact that they've had a tendency to win out from their drop spot, because being in that southern section of Brutal Bastion, they're able to push against JJ2 and Glubshy, and it's just working out great.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the meta continues to change here in EU game to game. I'm telling you, though, pistols, like Jenny said, that's where it's at.
Crazy. What's going on?
NA East was already like, no, we're here. We all know pistols for everybody. EU maybe a little bit changing. Maybe EU is just everyone's too good that like no one wants to make that mistake, and they're just like, hey, pistol, and everyone's like, no, I'm gonna take what I'm used to using, right? Like, I don't know. But hey, we got one game left to go. We hope you guys are enjoying all of the action. So, for one last time here in EU, the last ride of the day. Take it away, Jacob PR, 112K.
The final game of the day. Your last chance to make something happen in EU. A big moment, but there are big name players ready to strike.
Yeah, you can either go for the bragging rights, get first place on the day, or more importantly, gather those series points to go directly into the grand finals, because I'm not one to want to have to play through a surge week. That's why I'm here on the stage.
Fair enough, right? Fair enough. I think that's more, there's more to it than why you're there. But what I will say about these players competing in this last game is that we have seen some top level performances. I think the biggest surprise of the day for me so far, seeing Swizzy and Shamoki, we wondered, they were doing it in Elite Cups. Can you come from Asia to EU and perform? They have.
Yeah, very few players that can say they've dominated on multiple regions. And for them, taking home that championship at the end of the day will be huge. And luckily for us, game number 6 is ready. We don't have to wait long to find out the conclusion of who's going to take home that first place prize.
A big moment is on the horizon. Who will be victorious in this game? The final bus drop of the day, of the weekend. Pink and Nebinator, a duo who I'm a big personal fan of, and I've finally had the chance to show what they can do, and it's been rather impressive. A bit higher in the leaderboards earlier in some of the games, but here in game number 6, a chance to start to get back up into that top 5 area.
But one of the most exciting ones that we do like to see, Maiza and Voltiax 2v2 against Hardfind and Mighty Pelican, and oh my gosh, he makes that an easy find. Shockwave Hammer right out of the gates, tactical pistol, Machine SMG, and he's on the hunt, he's on the chase. Half HP, disappears right before our very eyes on Maiza. Splashes coming out. Levin, I'm scared. I'm shaking for him right now.
Yeah, I'm sure they will be scared as well. Now that they realize what they're up against. Creating so much space with that hammer, just completely destroying their cover and making it look easy. Hardfind and Mighty Pelican will win this fight, and they win on the day here at this POI. Things are looking good.
With him out, that's on the line right now. You can see Kaiden and Vico out for revenge. Taking out both Helix and Tilturn. Back to the lobby they go. Their run in week number 2 of the FNCS qualifiers comes to an end. Hopefully they've garnered enough points to gather as many series points as possible, because they could be one of those teams that are looming on the bubble, trying to fight for their way directly to the finals. Just like Albi and Ludwig. One of those teams, man, they're so high up on the leaderboard, they can only go down at this point.
And And I think when it comes to this team and what they've been able to accomplish today, they have definitely put the rest of the region on notice. It's one of the better teams so far this season. A big performance like this starts to improve your prospects in all aspects compared to Fortnite. Over here at Anvil Square though, Mr. Savage and I drop. Need to try win this fight once again.
They've done a good job of slowing down JJ2 and Glubshy throughout their performance last week, throughout the 2 days of qualifiers to get to this point. This is looking like one of the favorite teams really to perform at a high level. As iDrop trying to take advantage, the additional angle is going to be there. The information being shared over by Mr. Savage. He's finally going to be able to get out of escape as iDrop's going to slow it down. Regroup here with Savage, figuring out how they're going to attack this situation yet again. JJ2 trying to fight back. Piece Control going through a huge tag to back down Mr. Savage. Stabilizing themselves in this situation, biding some time. As you see iDrop just trying to go for that other angle. But this is the one thing that only makes me worry about iDrop and Mr. Savage, the way they're fighting this right now. They're fighting it as two different solos from two different directions. JJ2 and Glubshy at a moment's notice could turn, try to W key into one of these players' boxes and try to take the numbers game while they can. But I think Mr. Savage and iDrop, they kind of realize the situation. They're slowing down their aggression, trying to regroup. Like we talked about, Falcon Scout trying to reveal the position of where these players are exactly at. Huge amount of information, which will allow them, honestly, to kind of rethink the whole strategy of how they're fighting this.
And look, big props to Mr. Savage and iDrop today. Done a brilliant job against Glubshy and JJ2, of course. Glubshy and JJ2, they came fourth last week, right? So they are no easy opponents by any means, but Savage and iDrop have just been so relentless, so comfortable here in this fight at Anvil Square, and hopefully I don't jinx it here. We're in this fight. Savage needs to farm up a bit. Of course, a big day for him, announcing his new home, new organization. I'm sure we'll see that in his name next weekend, assuming they make it here again.
Perfect usage and perfect timing. Mr. Savage pulling off the Falcon Scout. As soon as they were going to try to push iDrop, he immediately was able to spot him out, but didn't get it that second time around. The trade's going to come through. Down goes iDrop, down goes JJ2. Glubshy versus Mr. Savage, where Glubshy's getting to get the leading end, but a huge shot from Mr. Savage himself. Back to back. Wow. That's why they signed him. You called him out. They said, we need that type of talent a part of our team.
Mr. Savage is special. A phenomenal player, and it's a reason why thousands and thousands flock to watch him whenever he plays and streams, because that level of talent is constantly on display. 200 IQ, Mr. 200 IQ himself.
It's scary how long he's been this good.
Since the beginning. Back when I was a comp player. So you know it's ancient times.
Long ago. Back when you were my height even.
Maybe not that far back.
Was that third grade? Second grade?
About 9 years old, probably, yeah.
I'll get there. I got a 5-year plan. Maris and Fred next, they got a plan of their own. And that plan is just loot up. Gather as many of the resources as possible. They know that team below them is not going anywhere, and if they do, they're going to get the information sooner rather than later. There's Vino and Queasy. Business as usual. Loot up, uncontested, far out in the lands. And they get zoned. So you know what Vino says, this could be a repeat.
Hey, when they get North Zones, they usually do seem to win, it feels like. Ooh. And they don't get North Zones often. Diox in white out there in this final game. Again, it is that final game, right? So when you see a team or a player go down, that is it, right? They gotta, you know, go have their Sunday roast, their Sunday dinner, and forget about it, because it is over.
Just stings that much more. Because in the other games, just like you're saying, you're like, okay, we can go again. All right, these are the adjustments you're gonna make. This time around, you gotta wait a whole week to even have that plan be possible, and you gotta qualify to get there. Massetti and Cammy doing what they do best. Passive, looking for that early game surge, setting themselves up for a nice spot before they build their tower high in the sky. Luckily for them, they don't got too much rotating to go. unlike some of these other teams. Talk about not rotating, talk about towers high in the sky. Queasy and Vino are building a skyscraper unlike ever before seen in the game so far. Spotting Grolls out into the distance. And I don't like the look of this for Grolls as he gets spotted out. Vino is going to go ahead and use that shockwave hammer, try to close the distance. You see Grolls about facing. He's trying to run, reunite with Fire Hunter over towards Brutal Bastion. And I think that's going to be a success for them. They just escaped treacherous waters.
Treacherous indeed. You saw the intention from Vino there. Whipped out that hammer. Very, very scary sight. The Grolls. The Watson robot. They're in the midst of a fight here. One of the teams that's sort of been middling in the standings. A big last game here would do wonders for them. What can the robot do? Trying to take control of the pieces here. Wasn't quite able to get the walls he wanted to at the right times. But if he can, Asa is going to be in for a world of trouble as Robot and Watt, they hit big. Top aimers. But need some match right now. They aren't working with much.
I like how aware Robot was seeing that third party come in. He could have easily stayed being aggressive there in that situation.
I just called him top aimers and he's whiffed every shot. Come on, you're not making me look good here, Robot. Come on.
He needs to update the firmware. He doesn't have the latest update. He's still on 2.0. He needs to go to 2.1.
Fair play, fair play, fair play. Look, there's been a lot going on so far this game, and in game number 6, to fill us in for the last time, we got Vivid here on the sidelines. Vivid, hit us with it.
Game 6, the name of this game will be the chase between third and second place. See if they can catch up with first place, Albi and Ludwig. Of course, we have Podesai going to be in second place, and then also to tune in with Vino, kind of update you guys on the loot, how both of these teams are doing. Last game, will they be able to catch it? They're both around 30 points behind. We'll have to see what they can do.
That battle between those two teams is one that we will pay very close attention to throughout this game. Of course, all these players playing desperately to try and get as much series points as possible. So you want to get the one up on a team.
And continues to pull north. Queasy and Vino's dream is Giddis and Chardy are trying to back up. They realize they got one down, so all the timing is theirs for the taking. Just trying to play for the visual audio that most players play with right now. Hear it going off, trying to break into the box. Piece control going on over. That's going to be an easy cleanup for them. Down goes at least one, but a huge shot's going to be traded off. Chari takes a massive amount of damage, but they're able to clean up the elimination nonetheless. And they do so before the shots come firing in. That timing was impeccable.
Max damage from Chari. What a shot. For Nebunator and Pink, a fight way deep into the storm and nowhere near the safe zone. Remember, zone is all the way at the very, very north of the map, the most northern point you can be. And they are all the way here still in the southeast along this shore. And that's some of the difficulties of landing in the extremities. When it pulls to the opposite extremity, you find yourself down in the dirt in fights like that. But they are very, very familiar to it. Pink has been doing that in many, many chapters, in many, many spots. Thinking back to all the days of the Joneses, very similar situations he faced there. I'm sure he'll have a plan in the works for Hellfire and Ref's Guard. They are making their way to the zone, and not as far of the distance to go as some of the things we saw a couple moments ago. And way above on Surge as well, Jacob.
Yep, so for them, they have the luxury of kind of being able to focus solely on that rotation. You guys saw where the zone was. They're not too far off, and they're getting there rather quickly. And that's the comfortability I'm talking about of Surge, that when you're dough on Surge, you have to stay in the zone just like this. You have to fight for it every single inch of 447 above. Right now, they're just fighting for their lives, fighting for their game number 6. Astral, Duck on the other side. 86 above for them. If they can go ahead and come out on top in this one, that Storm Surge is going to be plentiful for their success in their road into the rest of this game. But Clement and Deceptos, it doesn't look like they're taking too many big chances, but as I say that, they trade shot for shot. Decepto's gonna go down. Clement trying to think outside of the box, Shockwave hammering up, but it's also the reason why he takes a lot of damage to Astra. They trade shots back and forth, but I think Astra's going to be the one coming out on top. He has all the heals on his side. He can stay in the box. He can take all the time in the world. With the piece control going on over, he's trying to act very defensively, quickly getting in and out of the box. Clement, his choices are being dwindled. His options are being tossed out the window. Tries to go right back in with the Shockwave Hammer, but gets denied again. But he trades a shot as Astro continuously backing down with every step.
Clement doesn't have time on his sides, but he does have intent and aggression. And sometimes that's all you need. Unfortunately for him, though, it looks like time is going to run out for him. They are now on the hunt, and they will clean him up. Unfortunate there for the Frenchie. Gonna have to hit the drawing board. But a nice attempt nonetheless. Ludwig and Albi looking to continue their reign in first place and stop anybody from closing that distance.
In a situation you don't see him in very often either. Right before it went away, they were down on Storm Surge, so even though they don't have to worry about it, it's still looming in the back of their minds about something they still have to deal with, something they still have to worry about. Just not in this exact moment. And they're pausing, trying to gather that information. They know that team is directly below them, but they also took some shots from the third parties. And this continues to pull towards the north side of the map. And without a Shockwave Hammer, it's going to be hard for some of these teams to get up the different elevated mountains around all these enemies. And so for Albi and Ludwig, holding on to first place, they got their work cut out for them.
And are we going to see that top aim I was talking about? Yes, we will. Watson Robot pick up Thomas HD. And so that does not bode well for Malabuka in this one. You can see now how difficult of a task he has, because even in the storm still, players taking shots at him.
He just has scraps too when it comes to resources and mats. Not much to work with. Probably using it, just try to stay alive, get to this position, losing Thomas along the way, and that's why you see him not really building, not really trying to give away his position, recycle as much as possible, as everybody else is trying to get them spot in his own. And honestly, this is a huge week. Even though they're not in first place, Pink and Nebs, they failed to qualify last week. And in terms of series points, in terms of that auto qualification directly into the grand finals and not having to play through Surge Week, this was crucial for them. And so I got to give them hats off, realizing the situation that they're in and performing to a high standard. With 1 week left, hopefully they can kind of mimic that as Robot and Walks trying to finish what they started. They got that first elimination, separated another player. This is absolutely crucial, and they're going to clean that one up with ease. And that's going to grant them a Shockwave Hammer. Every single time they get these eliminations, it adds to their total.
Really nice stuff here for the Swedes. They'll be hoping that this run of luck can continue. Malabuka tried his best. But again, not going to be enough to avenge Thomas there. Ludwig and Albi. Right into another fight. They almost connected with a big shot there. Cosmo just doing his best to scurry away before returning fire himself. That's going to slow Ludwig down just that bit.
That was a huge find by Albi. Ludwig being the distraction. Not only are they above Surge, he's able to back up. They get the Shockwave Hammer. As long as they're able to heal up, they'll be in good shape. 132 above the damage threshold. Not too far to go before they're in zone. Expending the builds. That's a sacrifice that they're willing to make at this stage in the game. Just take note of their points. If they do go down, that's going to be the threshold that we're looking for.
Yeah, we saw Vino go down in the feed, so that is not a good thing at all, not a good sign. He's actually down and out completely. Pink and Nebs are nearby, and so if they hear Queasy struggles, they might look to get involved in this themselves. But Queasy now has a big job on his hands, and of course, in terms of series points, they are going to be looking very good after this performance, regardless of where they finish now. But you still want to go out with a bang. And like, you can't rule that out for Queasy. More hammers than he could ever do anything with, and if Pink and Nebs go in there, they might be greeted with a cheeky little gift. Seti in a very similar situation. A lot of the times today, we've seen Cammy having to clutch up solo. This time around, it's going to be his teammate Seti with that burden.
With these North Zone pools, they're not really able to set up the way they want to with the tower in the sky to fight for the Surge, and all these teams rotating into their position because they too have to focus on their own rotation to make it this far. As Artie looking like he's getting ready to Shockwave at the perfect time. Knows that he's there, possibly by himself. If I were him, you got the empty slot, pick up the Falcon Scout, scan real quick, see everybody that's in close proximity, but doesn't have the time anymore. Zone continuously pushing in, forcing them to move forward in their journey. As said, he's just trying to take some shots. He needs that surge as a solo.
Yeah, and I think Walla Pink, and they've just got sort of knocked away. Queasy, not even going to shockwave hammer in, wants to stay inconspicuous. Just going to run in, use these old builds for protection. Stay away here in the backside, try to go unnoticed. Of course, the more attention he brings to himself, the worse. And so he'll be patient, not in a rush. 40 spotted an opportunity there. Nevertheless, just clearing out a pathway for him to get into zone. Another hammer will take him just beneath that height team. He might actually try to sneak up on him and take it for himself as a solo. What is Queasy doing? Very ambitious there from Queasy. I don't think that's the play I would have made, but nevertheless, I'm not going to question him. Either way, though, that is the end of their run in today's games.
Like a magnet to height, it almost feels like. Always find themselves at the highest elevation, but at the same time, really thinking outside of the box, trying to take advantage of a team that may not have expected him coming, but expected or not, they definitely showed up and answered the call. Kyrie and Ping's putting some shots in the distance. Seti's going to go down as well. Slove and Artie, 11 below, continuously falling even further. Now they're 28, trying to put the shots, but they can't put too much pressure because they both have red eyes. But landed just enough, 2 above the damage threshold. Seeing the loot right below, have to make that conscientious decision. Is it worth it? Is it not? Is it a risk we're willing to take? And with a few teams being there around them, they didn't take the risk, and they get the reward regardless. Flodax is the one who gets caught being a little greedy, and they strike from above.
And they might be able to pick up that loot as well. They are still wary of what lies beneath. But once they think it's time to take the gamble, they will walk on in and they will pick up another. Wow. Brilliantly done there from Artie and Slove. And this is the makings of a very, very good game. Of course, the zone starting to move will mean that they have to pick up the pace of it. Can't dwell on those limbs. Just have to make a move on.
Yep, Kuhawa and Joker just trying to shockwave to the front side of zone. They got themselves there just in the nick of time, down on Surge. That's not a situation we want to be in. And they see Slove close by. Not going on the offensive, though. Right now, they're going to try to out-heal it to begin with, waiting for some other teams trying to get in zone as well. That's where we're going to peek through and look back, but they're getting pressured, stuck to on the defensive end, holding the covers, and this is where they're trying to expand out. The information that they're gathering right now is very, very crucial. 64 below. You got to imagine how many other teams are just not peeking because they're above.
Chawa and Joker going to be searching all around, and opportunities are definitely there. Not bad, but wishing maybe it could have been more. That's V-Coat that will be picked up. And so Kylie now stuck in the mud there in zone. Going to medkit and hope that that can do him a wonder and keep him in the zone for just that bit longer. But for Chawa and Joker, they'll be happy out of that. Just getting above now. And maybe realizing that there's more there for a moment. Bad Snap and Floki currently based up above. All those cones, the metal ones reinforced. They're very strong in that position. But we've seen players look strong here at the beginning of the 6th zone and not really do anything with it. So the game's not done. They still need to perform. They still need to deliver.
And the last time we seen a situation like this with Queasy and Vino down, nobody really knew when and where to take height. They probably just assumed they were up there. And for Bad Sniper, they are already up there. They know they have the highest viewpoint of the land. There's X-Squeeze and POTUS, 252 above, only peeking when have to. And there goes the information. X-Squeeze letting them know this is where you're going to shockwave me, straight to the front side of zone, trying to get there as quick as possible. Albie and Ludwig along the way as well. Artie and Slove, they found some eliminations to get to this point, built themselves a cushion when it comes to Storm Surge, trying to catch somebody slipping backside of zone. Putting the shots on, pressuring a team just enough, just to make them feel like there's somebody watching them every step of the way before they shockwave themselves, stealing away the front side.
Yeah, and you can see a cut-off here happening. Nebinator, he tried his best, couldn't really connect with the shot. And so, back to square one. The focus being to move on throughout the zone. Nobody really contesting height whatsoever. This might be free for Bad Sniper and Floki.
Yeah, I'm coming into this one. Grols and Fire Hunter towards the top. They're on that bubble of that top 40, almost forced to go through Surge Week as Albie and Ludwig on the other side of that one. Another top finish here. They can bypass that whole week, go directly into the grand finals. And once again, Albie with the solid gold ready to terrorize some teams with the Excalibur as well. They get into that front side of zone. Potosi and X-Squeeze pressuring from different angles, trying to edit themselves in and out before peeking straight through, trying to get to the front side, but they get separated. Potosi ends up with a speed bump, but he finds his way nonetheless. X-Squeeze goes down though, so that leaves himself as a solo, wondering, how am I going to make this work?
I don't even know how Potosi survived there. Got pieced up, but the hammer got him out of dodge. Now though, without a teammate, without hope, he needs to connect with a big shot. This is his chance, this is his moment. But will he be able to connect? For Ping and Kyrie, they move forward in the zone. And there is a team on this layer that they need to be careful about. That's going to be Albi and Ludwig that dropped down one beneath them. But they still need to be careful because they will try and chop them out. And that's exactly what's looking to happen here. Kyrie almost getting split up. So he needs to stay by his duo side. And the hammer play to knock them down. These guys are so aggressive. They don't care who you are. They just want to take you out.
Makes a little bit of a mistake there, trying to get the edit. That would have been a huge shot and fire off. Floki and Bad Sniper, they held high ground for the past 2 zones so far, looking to make it a third. Pressure is there from the Red Eye, but his ammo is looking a little light. Sooner or later, that pressure is going to stop. Mr. Savage and iDrop trying to recycle. They have no builds towards the low ground, trying to make it work. But sooner or later, they're going to run into a team, and there it goes. Mr. Savage trying to make it work. That's Kyrie. He's left there, trying to make it work. Vaniac on the other side as well. So many other teams stuck in this chaos and destruction, but somehow, some way, Mr. Savage and iDrop keep their eye on the prize, find a sliver of low ground to work with.
The Norwegians are on the move. They're on the hunt. They're on the pounce. Don't want to mess with them. They'll come rolling through and take you out. Looking to claim low now, but there'll be a couple other teams that have their eyes on that as well. You've got to think eventually Pink and Nevs will do the same, but they have to start connecting with something. Running on mats, a refresh will be needed, but knocked right into the zone. I don't think that's what Pink would have intended. Just down to 10 HP now. And a couple of shields remaining. The mini will get him up just that bit more. But without Nebs, without much HP, all builds, this is a tough task to ask of Pink.
He has the shockwave hammer. Not wasting any time. Into the zone, though. Down goes Pink. Hopefully his points were enough to boost him up the series point leaderboard. Mr. Savage, men miss, outside of the zone, trying to find his way in. And it's going to go down the hill. This is the best possible scenario for Mr. Savage. He finds a crevice, something to work with. He gives himself hope.
A lifeline in this game. That's exactly what Mr. Savage needs. When you give him an inch, he'll take an absolute mile. And he sees Robot there. Can he connect, though? Putting a stair in between him, added protection, then looking to take the walls, looking to claim some space, and there's some loot above him. That might be the free drop he needed, but the team above is going to be raining havoc, and that's not going to be what Mr. Savage needs, but he can keep hitting shots and keep making plays, and maybe, just maybe, he can take out Floki in a 1v1 now. I don't know how we've ended up here, but nevertheless, Mr. Savage has a chance. Can Floki stop him, though?
Poki's just trying to play defensive right now, not making any big moves. Peeks down, shockwaves again, but he lands the shot that matters. Floki with 14 eliminations for him and his duo take the 6th and final game.
Floki and Bad Sniper held height from the beginning of the end game all the way to the end. Brilliantly held, brilliantly done, and they close out the day strong. The Frenchies putting on a show.
Putting on a show indeed. 4 straight zones, Bad Sniper and Floki. They built themselves up with a ton of resources, a ton of opportunity for the end game, taking down Grolls, finding even more loot to work with. Eventually, push came to shove. They take down first place as well. This is literally a legendary duo rising to the occasion and taking over no matter what superstars are in their lobby.
And look, speaking of superstars, Mr. Savage, very much impressing us, very much showing us, especially in this last game, just why he is respected. He couldn't do it in the final 1v1 against Floki, but nevertheless, very, very impressive stuff. Bad Sniper and Floki, they take game 6 of week number 2, and what a week it has been, Jacob. The EU players, you wanted them to step up, and they certainly did. These have been some of the best games we've had all major long.
Yo, I agree with that. Got me smiling ear to ear, figuring out what's going to happen, though, next? The leaderboards, they're in shambles. The series point leaderboards, who knows where we ended up after this one? Luckily, we have 3 of the best analysts in all of Fortnite to break it down and guide us to where we need to go.
Thank you so much, Jacob. PR11 2K, an amazing set of 6 games. My goodness. I just can't even believe how chaotic EU was coming into week number 2. We had highs, we had lows, we had surprises. I mean, what a day.
No surprise, though, that we see Albi and Ludwig managing to stay consistent throughout. We saw them basically just playing for placement. I think that they were very tactical in terms of how they actually chose to move throughout that first moving zone. It was an especially difficult position, I think, for them to try and play from that mid-ground territory, because while they might have had 55 mats, at the same time, you can expend those so rapidly because of the Shockwave Hammer. And I just gotta say it though, a quick shout out to Mr. Savage, not just for that 0-0 Nation signing, but also because of the initial start off in general to this game. He had a phenomenal performance, clutching out a 1v2 scenario when JJ2 and Glubshy actually chose to switch their drop spot over to Anvil Square. And I think because of that instance, Mr. Savage with that second place finish, Jenny.
Yeah, Mr. Savage there was able to pick up iDrop. And if he wasn't, then he would have had to run that as a solo. So the fact that he was able to get him up definitely made them in such a great position to win. And they got really, really close, but in second is still so good, and they were able to still get so many eliminations. So it ended up very good for them.
Yeah, I mean, hey, going up 9 places to hit top 8, that's pretty dang good, but look at the top 6. None of them moved. Everyone's like, okay, hey, is everybody happy? Let's just play this last game out. Everybody do what you're doing.
Sure.
We'll all go home. We'll come back next week. We'll fight for the crown then. My goodness, just to see the level of skill, because, you know, usually you'll watch standings shift at least once, maybe twice, you know, but to have that top 6 cemented that way, that shows skill.
Largely due to the fact that I think that the in-game points as well were just so heavily stacked towards that top 3 position, and Podesai and Essuiz especially managing to maintain their second place position throughout. We saw numerous instances of these two hanging out from that south side of the Brutal Bastion area, and despite the fact that these were a lot of north pooling zones, I think that we still saw some wonderful instances of Podesai and Squeeze. They weren't trying to be overly greedy with anything. They saw their advantages, they made sure to take them, and they never really looked for an overextension.
Oh yeah, they had their idea of where they were going to rotate, and again, like, that positioning is so important. And they didn't run into anybody trying to get that extra damage on Storm Surge, which put them in a good placement for Storm in that area. Again, it could have probably been a little bit more ideal in their drop spot, but again, they did have some good positionings, and they made it work perfectly.
Yeah, another duo I do want to highlight here, Seti and Cammy, a duo we would not expect to continue to drop down. Now, of course, they did make top 10. That's still quite an accomplishment. But if they don't pick it up in week number 3, we could be looking at seeing them go into Surge Week, where they need a Victory Royale or have to place top 5. That window is so much smaller in Surge Week.
It's definitely a slim margin, but at the same time, if I would expect anybody to do it, it's Seti and Cammy. They are a history team for a reason. And keep in mind also your FNCS Invitational winners, which is always going to be pertinent to the conversation, because just when you think that they might be out of it, these guys have a tendency to look for that pop-off factor.
Yeah, I always like to say, you just never count them out. Do not count Cammy and Seti out, because they show up when it's needed. So I am just so certain that whenever they have to show up, they're going to make sure that they keep playing this through, because we're going to want to see them in land, and I know that they want to be there too.
That's right. Hey, guess what, Fortnite fam? Got a little special interview for you. It's none other than the man himself, Queasy, who's coming on through. Queasy, what's going on, dude? It's great to see you. How you doing?
What's good? A bit depressed, but it's okay.
Bro, there's nothing to be depressed about. You placed 3rd. Okay, listen. If we have to talk about it, I want to ask. So what happened, right? We had these like amazing games from you and Vino, but there was like those 2 games where one of you was like down, right? So like what happened in those 2 games?
I'm not really sure. Like we got really good luck today with zones and with hammers from our drop spot, which we don't usually get.
Okay.
So I think we definitely could have played better, but I don't think we played that bad, considering like everything. I feel like the lag might have like maybe messed us up a little bit today, but other than that, I think we did good.
I can only say Queasy would be one to be disappointed by a 3rd place finish. That's a little bit of that champion's mental shining through, but you guys are definitely in a fantastic spot for looking to find yourselves in the grand finals, as is just from your performances these past 2 weeks. So what's the mental for heading into week 3 knowing that?
I mean, I think we're just going to relax, probably stream it both, and yeah, take that chill week off and then prepare for grands.
All right, Queasy, I gotta ask. So we've been seeing this change, a shift from holding like the SMG to everybody holding a pistol. What's going on there? Give me a little insight.
I'm pretty sure it's just because the perk can be unlocked at any time of the game, so people can carry red dots, get their surge up, and then unlock the pistol and just play the pistol.
Yeah, that's dope, dude. Okay, so if you're gonna take a little bit of a chill week, is there something you guys want to like improve or work on going into week 3?
I think we're just gonna keep everything hidden for now for grand finals. We have some strats coming, so We'll see.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
I like it, a little secretive.
I mean, that's Queasy and Vito, though. They always
like
have
it.
something, and those clutch moments when you need to clutch up, you guys are always there. So first off, we just want to thank you so much, Queasy. For people out there who maybe don't know you, and I don't know why they wouldn't, but for those that don't, where can they look to find you?
QueasyFN on Twitter.
There you go. Clean. You like to keep it queasy and simple. Okay, I'm so sorry. Anyway, anyway, Queasy, I'll catch you later, man. Thank you
See
so
you,
much
Queasy.
for your time. We
thank
really
you.
do appreciate it. Well, hey, that is pretty much it here in EU, and I hate that we have to say goodbye because it means we won't get to hang out for another week, but it's okay. Before we go, why don't we talk about that broadcast schedule? If you've enjoyed this, don't forget, there's also NA East. We're back next weekend. NA East will be first, then we'll be right back here for EU to bring you all of the action. And do keep in mind, that is week number 3. That's the week before Surge Week. That's when all of these duos have to put everything online. Because I'm telling you right now, you don't want to go to Surge Week. You want to try and lock in that grand final spot.
Yeah, 100%, right? You want to just sort of get in, out. You don't want to have to deal with all of that. We know how it can be in some of those rounds. Personally, I'm very excited for it. Good to see Queasy, right? Shout out to my guy Queasy. I know he's been hitting the gym. He's looking good, you know what I mean? Looking fresh, my guy. What I will say, right, is that these games, if they are anything like this next week, when it is a bit more intense, right, because you have the players who have to do a last-minute, wonder class, it's going to get real fun for us.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for it. Last week, there was something left to be missed. And after this week, oh, man, was I entertained. The shockwave hammers, the big plays. And the most exciting thing about this region versus NA East is it feels like anybody can come out on top.
That is so true. Like, again, we saw that with the winning team today. It's crazy because they didn't qualify for the first week. And we come there, we see them, and we're like, hello, who are you? It's my time to make a name for myself. So I love to see that in EU because there's so many talented players.
You always have to appreciate the new names but familiar faces, but new duo synergy as well there for our first place finishes today. But man of mystery there, Queasy, with the whole elusiveness in terms of, hey, yeah, we got some strats. They're a little bit hidden. We'll pull them out when the time is right, and I'm sure they're not the only duos looking to do that.
That's right. Well, Fortnite fan, we appreciate you guys so much for watching all of the action with us. Remember, next week, we're back. Same time, same great place. Have an amazing week. Keep yourself safe. And as always, we'll see you on that battle bus.
Beep, beep, beep.